out for the rest of this lap. Let's pick him up, boys, in the back stretch. Bernie Herman, you should be seeing him about now.
We're waiting for the quiet, unassuming Jim Rathman doing hand call special. And here he comes now in car number 4. Bias goes Jim Rathman. Okay, Sid.
Pick up Blue Palmer in the northeast turn and follow it around, boys.
We've got him. The crowd knows Rathman's coming by, and he's got no competition. 2 more turns. He's made one of them. There's only 1 turn remaining. Number 4 for Jim Rathman, who goes into the short chute now. Here comes Roger Ward at the moment. Over to Jim Shelton.
All right, Jim Rathman's just kind of taking it easy here. Boy, I don't know what happened. Roger Ward is really biting fingernails if he could. Here he comes now. Gee, he's dropping back considerably.
Okay, here's the checkered flag for Jim Rathman, the winner of the 44th annual 500-mile race.
The Verizon IndyCar Series on IndyCar Radio. Stay tuned for more on IndyCar Radio.
A white flag to Tom Sneva with a 10-second lead. Starts his last 2.5 miles.
Sneva, age 34, from Spokane, Washington, on his way to his first 500-mile victory, Doug.
And the fans on their feet in turn number 2, waving their hats, waving their scarves, whatever they've got, sending him up the backstretch. Right here, they're doing the same thing. Everyone frantically and happily waving as he approaches turn 3.
The hats are off, the hands are up. Tom Sneva, a half a lap to his first Indianapolis 500 victory. He could coast almost from here. He's in 4th.
The 67th running of the Indianapolis 500 is about to be capped off. To call the winner, here is the voice of the 500, Paul Page.
The Texaco star, Tom Sneva, screams for the line, the double checkered flag, and Tom Sneva has won the Indianapolis 500, his first victory ever at Indianapolis.
Stay tuned for more on IndyCar Radio. This is IndyCar. From the Phoenix International Raceway, this is the Verizon IndyCar Series on the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
Ah, you like the sound of that, huh? From Phoenix International Raceway. This is the Verizon IndyCar Series. Hello, everyone. Desert Diamond West Valley Phoenix Grand Prix preparations underway. And an interesting schedule, most assuredly, as we have taken the green flag already and business picking up. A 2-hour session. We have been touting the changes in the format over the course of this year with a couple of 45-minute sessions on the road and street courses and then a 45-minute session and then qualifying. Well, this 2-day format gives these teams now 2 hours of practice tonight, and they'll go qualifying just less than 2 hours after they finish the practice session at 10:55 Eastern tonight, and then go racing tomorrow with no warm-up session. As we mentioned, we are at Phoenix International Raceway, and we're happy to have with us in the broadcast booth for this session. He'll be a pit reporter during qualifying this afternoon, and then again tomorrow night. He was a driver last weekend at Barber Motorsports Park, and Zach Veach, first of all, congratulations, I think, on a job well done with your finish at Barber Motorsports Park. You brought it back in one piece, which is the first goal. Got a lot of seat time, which is the second goal. Thirdly, in the conversations that you and I had the other night, you seemed to impress the people that you needed to impress.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think, everybody that needed to know here in the paddock that it was a tough situation to be just thrown into. But, I was very thankful Ed Carpenter Racing gave me that opportunity to get my first Verizon IndyCar Series start down at Barber. But, yeah, I had 60 laps in an IndyCar, which was 7 months ago before I sat in the car for first practice at Barber. So it was a lot to jump into and get used to. And my engineer kept joking that each session we pulled off a half a second and kept getting closer and closer. And he said, well, if we had 3 more sessions, we might have been on the pole.
Yeah,
so,
well.
It's just one of those things. It's just getting up to speed, getting the seat time that we need to be competitive in an IndyCar. And, Barber's one of the most difficult places just to be thrown into until sink or swim. So I think we checked all the boxes we need to. I feel very comfortable going into the Indy 500 here next month, and hopefully get my chance to be back on a road or street course later in the year.
I think a couple of things. You said that you noticed that the most stress around the neck and the shoulders. You told me that you added some padding to remedy that, but to give you an idea how late this deal came together, that cockpit was equipped with your Indy Light seat?
Yeah, no. So, we always talk about how the Indy Light seat can fit right into the IndyCar, and in this case, it kind of saved me and gave me an opportunity to be in a Verizon IndyCar, because I believe I got the call Tuesday of race week going into Barber that I needed to come in the shop and get my my pedals and my belts and things fitted just in case. And then I got the news a little later on that JR wasn't going to be able to compete that weekend. And definitely not the way I wanted my IndyCar start, but as JR told me, that's how he got his debut in IndyCar, so it was only kind of fair. That's how I got mine.
We'll talk more about that, of course, as time progresses. But Nick Yeoman, even though we have gorgeous sunshine, the wind continues to pick up. Caution on the course for track conditions. And not only is there wind, but we're in the desert, my friend, and that means there's a lot of sand and dust blowing around.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mark and Zach and everyone watching and listening across the country, maybe around the world. As you mentioned, the wind is the storyline we're going to be following throughout the course of this afternoon. This is going to be a busy, although it a long, but certainly a busy practice session. A lot for these teams to get done because, you want to trim that car out for speed for qualifying, but you also want to try to find a good race setup to race on tomorrow night. But those conditions, as you mentioned, very strong wind out of the west blowing down the back straightaway with that dog leg here at Phoenix International Raceway. Track temperature right now is up around 120 degrees. Ambient temperature feels 84. It feels a little bit warmer down there than, or it doesn't feel nearly as warm as what 84 usually feels, because it is certainly a dry heat here in the desert at Phoenix International Raceway. Again, that track temperature up around 120. But we're going to be watching that wind, Mark, because that is going to play wreak havoc on a lot of these drivers as you trim out. You lose some of that downforce, you lose some of that grip looking for speed. That may be something we're going to watch later this afternoon for qualifying. But it is a strong breeze. You can see the flags above the scoring pylon here at Phoenix. It is a strong breeze out of turn number 2 down the back straightaway.
Yep, stretched out plenty for sure, Nick. Thank you. The dimensions here, it's a little over a mile in length. The front straightaway just shy of 1,180 feet, just over 1,500 feet on the backstretch. The width, 62 feet at the front. The banking, 10 to 11 degrees in turns 1 and 2, 10 to 11 degrees in the backstretch dog leg, 8 to 9 degrees in turns 3 and 4, 3 degrees on the backstretch, 9 degrees or 3 degrees on the front stretch, 9 degrees on the backstretch, we should say. Zach, on this track a year ago in Indy Lights, tell you what, let's get your thoughts and impressions in just a moment. Let's first go downstairs to Jake Query.
Tim Cindric is on the radio for Joseph Newgarden, who, of course, got his first win for Roger Penske and doing so at Barber. So let's begin with that. From your standpoint, how important do you think it was for Joseph to kind of, and I hate to say get that first win out of the way, but there was so much attention about him coming to your team. Do you think that it lifted something off his shoulders?
Without a doubt, I think it did for all of us. I think anytime that you can see a driver come across, you want to see them have success as early as possible, just to get everybody to where that's behind you and you move on to the next steps. And, you know, to do it in his third race here, I think there's only been 3 other guys that have done that or sooner relative to, you know, Roger's driver. So, yeah, all weekend, you know, he deserved it. He passed guys. He, you know, he did a good job. We had good cars, and fortunately one of them came home. It was a shame what happened to Will there, but, you know, for Joseph, absolutely, it was a big deal to get his first win in any team, let alone ours.
He did it in one race faster than Rick Mears. He also did it in a faster time than Elio Castroneves, to name a few. What have been your impressions so far of Joseph Newgarden, just in terms of temperament, feedback, working with him on the radio?
Well, I think he's been in the series long enough to where he knows what to expect. You know, it's just a change of environment for him. You know, he'd driven this car in engine combination last year, so, you know, the fact that our team, he was really moving into a group that had already been together for a couple of years, which was a different transition than maybe what Simon had when he came across, and we started basically a whole new team. You know, and we decided that I should come across here so that we just understood that transition. And, you know, our first year with Simon, we weren't too proud of, honestly, because we felt like, you know, he would come in here and transition sooner. And, you know, if that was going to be the case with Joseph or the next guy, you know, I feel like, you know, Will and that group are the most experienced group that we had. And in some ways, this maybe it's the least experienced group. And, you know, wanted to be part of understanding how that transition was going to be and make sure that if it didn't go well, I at least understood why.
This track is obviously not Indianapolis, but it's the first taste of that form of racing that we'll have before the 500. There has been a lot of discussion about Chevrolet and Honda, as there is each time this year. How curious are you, I know you've done extensive testing, but is there a gap there in terms of speed, and how curious are you to see what happens here at Phoenix?
Well, I'm not sure this will be really a fair indication, and I think Indianapolis, all the way up until the Fast 9 on Sunday night, do you really know who stands where? With the boost changes and different things that you're working on all month, I don't think you really know. And then you go into carb day, and you're not really sure how the race engines are going to sort out relative to what you qualified with, and it's a bit of a mystery all the way through the month of May. So I don't really have a feeling for where we're going to stand.
Most importantly, unfortunately, the new Guns N' Roses schedule does not coordinate with the IndyCar season in terms of where we are, but I know that you're a Night Train fan club member. Are you going to make any shows this summer?
Yeah, without a doubt. I hung out with some of those guys in Long Beach, and I'll definitely catch up with those guys at some point during the year.
Thanks for the invite.
Hey, anytime. Come on.
Hey, I'll tell you what, look forward to watching this race, and obviously best of luck to you in Indianapolis, but always a pleasure, and I know you had some work done on the ankle, so hope you're feeling better.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Tim Cindric, guys, of course, on the radio for Joseph Newgarden here, as Newgarden sits right now fourth. Of course, not a lot of time, just some install laps at this point. But I talked to Joseph earlier this week, as a matter of fact, just about the fact of the Chevrolet Honda, and he was very open. He said, hey, Honda's been a great competitor, and I'm very curious to see what happens in particular at Indianapolis. Mark, bottom line is this is a schedule where, of course, you just go one weekend after the next. But Nick Yeoman, let's be honest, everybody starts thinking about Indianapolis when you get to a speedway, although this obviously not one of the super speedways, but you're with another guy that'll be strategizing.
Oh, that's a great segue, Jake. You mentioned Indianapolis, and I'm with the Indianapolis 500 winning team from 1 year ago. That is in the pit of Alexander Rossi, talking with the engineer strategist Rob Edwards, who is on the pit box here for Alexander this season. Last weekend, of course, Joseph Newgarden stole the headlines, winning, the race, his first win for Team Penske. I thought you guys had the drive of the day with Alexander coming from 18th to 5th. How big was that for this team and the morale after, I know, a disappointing Long Beach result?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, Nick. Obviously, after Long Beach, we thought we had a good chance to win the race, if not, for certainly be on the podium. And so going into Barber, obviously qualifying didn't go the way we wanted, so we decided we'd be pretty aggressive with the strategy. And Alex did a good job of executing what we set out to do.
How is his maturity level? I mean, this is your first season getting to work with him. He certainly impressed a lot of people a year ago. How impressed are you with this young driver?
I think he's everything that you want to work with, right? He's fast. He's good in terms of managing a race, managing fuel, managing his speed, looking after tires. So, I'm hopeful the rest of the year we can have some fun.
You don't get to work with not only just one of the most talented and up-and-coming drivers, you got one of the best up-and-coming engineers in Jeremy Millis over here, who's found a lot of success early on at Ed Carpenter, makes the move over here to this team. This group, this unit, I think a lot of people looked at you guys and said, this is a dark horse team that can make some moves this year.
Yeah, we're really excited to get Jeremy over the off-season as well, and I think he and Alexander have gelled very quickly, And as you say, we're only 3 races in, so we're going to keep building on what we've done so far and hopefully keep moving forward.
Final thing is we've gone back to green flag racing here at Phoenix International Raceway. This is a long 2-hour practice session. You guys obviously had a chance to test here about a month ago. What's the game plan? I mean, I would think there's a lot to learn here for 2 hours.
There's a lot to learn. You may remember we didn't have the best tests, so we're just trying to get off on a better start. Obviously, take the lessons we learned when we were here before, and see if we can do a little bit better than Barber last weekend.
Good chatting you with. That's Rob Edwards, again, the strategist in the number 98 for Alexander Rossi. That test session that he alludes to, Mark, Alexander actually had problems during that test section, backed it in the wall in turn number 2. We've seen a lot of guys over the last year and a half since we've been racing back here at Phoenix International Raceway have some problems in turn number 2. Alexander was one of those in the test session a couple months ago.
Race control obviously happy with the conditions here at Phoenix International Raceway, and the green flag is out. A couple of the cars making their paces, including the number 10 of Tony Kanaan, who just cleared the start-finish line. Again, Zach Feach joins us at the broadcast booth. Our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton, will be here for qualifying and the race tomorrow. He's busy this weekend, double duty here. Qualified 3rd for the Silver Crown race. We'll talk to Davey about that, of course. So, Zach, let's go back last year to your run here at Indy Lights. Tell us about the characteristics of Phoenix International Raceway.
It's fast, and it's unpredictable at times, especially it gets so hot here in Phoenix as track temps go up, the car gets greasier. But the tough thing is, turns 1 and 2 are very, very different compared to 3 and 4, as you talked earlier in the broadcast. And 1 and 2's got more banking, it's a tighter radius. So when you get into there, if there's a lot bigger compression and the car really binds up and kind of unloads as you go through the exit there. And as Nick was talking about, a lot of cars find their rear ends into the wall of turn 2, and it's just because it is such a high commitment corner and the car is so loaded that if it barely gets sideways on you there, it's just going to, leave and you're not going to be able to catch it. And you get to 3 and 4, it's a little more laid out, a little less banking. Reminds me more of a Milwaukee where the car can kind of dance around and you can keep it under you, but you're constantly changing the car. You make it a little better through 1-2, it's worse than 3-4. You make it better in 3-4, it's worse than 1-2. So you just got to figure out where you want your speed and what you can do to make it the best combination possible, Mark.
Pretty cool to watch him tackle that dog leg, Zach. They're very, very low on the racetrack at the exit of 1, and then they let it wash up high upon exit. They get down to the bottom of the racetrack, they cut that dog leg off, and then they get right back to that outside retaining wall.
Yeah, you don't want to drop below that dog leg, though. You want to come down as close as you can to that yellow line, but if you touch that apron, it does get a little free on you, and you got to have quick hands to get it back under you. But, this has always been one of my favorite places to come to. This was the first place I ever tested an Indy Lights car on an oval, so last year we wanted to have a better result, but we had that cut tire, and this is the first oval I ever found myself in the wall at, so I have kind of a love-hate with this place because it definitely rung my bell.
Talk about momentum, what a key it is for these teams and drivers. Once you got it, you want to keep it. Sebastian Bourdais has it right now, a 6-point lead coming in, but got some guys nipping at his heels. Dixon, Newgarden with the win, puts him 7 points back. Pagano, the defending series champion, is 11 points back, and Hinchcliffe for the win under his belt. Hinch is just 15 points back, and you get to Elio 33 points back. So let's face it, wrong thing happens this weekend that can really blow up the points getting ready to go to the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Right, with us being so not far, but getting into the season already before, the Indy GP and Indy 500. If you've had some bad races up to this point, now's the time to minimize the damage the rest of the season because you can't afford to have any more bad races. Now, the guys that have started it off well in 2017, they can have a little bit of bad luck here and there and still be okay, but as you talk with momentum, I think, Joseph Newgarden, with getting that win with Penske, as we saw with Pagano, once he got that win, he kind of went on a tear, so maybe we're going to see the same thing with Joseph here.
Reeled off 3 in a row last year in the early portions of the season, and I think that was enough with some difficulties he had later in the year that allowed him to kind of solidify his spot as the guy to beat and then go on and win the championship. So now, again, Indy Lights, we're looking at that race car. You'll be able to answer this question from an IndyCar perspective, at least part of it anyway, in about a month from now. But Tim Cindric said Jake was talking about how this is an oval and a chance to get to an oval before the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and and Tim didn't really give this as a ringing endorsement in terms of preparing you for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What's different about it?
The thing that's different is just the whole way you attack it. We come here to Phoenix International Raceway, and we still have our road course package on, or I should say our short oval package. A lot of downforce, a lot of grip. And the idea is the same. You still want to minimize as much scrub as you can because that's going to be the fastest race car. But, you want to pile on that downforce around here because Phoenix is very difficult to pass at. You don't really have straightaways long enough to get a good enough toe to pass into, say, 1 or 3 like you do at Indy. So here you got to really have that good mechanical car that's going to help you when you got that dirty air all over your nose. But then you get someplace like Indy where you got the draft to help you out, and it's, a lot more methodical approach. I feel... Now, I can't touch on that 100%. I'll talk to you here in May, and I can tell you. But, I feel like Phoenix, this is a place that you got to go in with that mindset. You want to attack it and be very aggressive with the car to try to get through here quickly. In Indy, it's all more about dotting your I's and T's, just doing everything as smooth as you can and as precise as you can. Because, as we get to that Fast 9, in qualifying for the 500, everybody's maxed out completely.
Any fatigue start to set in after you get 50, 60 laps, 70 laps here? Mentally, physically, or you guys at that point should be in good enough shape where that's not an issue?
In a lights car, no. I mean, it's still definitely very difficult in a lights car, but, that's what you train for. In an Indy car, I think it's, 2 times or 3 times more difficult than an Indy lights car. So I'd say, probably the first 50, 60 laps, you're kind of feeling it a little bit, and then you kind of get to that runner's block where you settle in and you stay at that comfort zone for the rest of the race, or at least that's what I found at Barber. The first 20 laps, I was like, wow, okay, this is going to be tough. But you finally get to that point where it just smooths out, and it really doesn't get any worse, and you just kind of find your rhythm, you find your groove, and then you just keep trying to be as consistent as you can until the end.
How much are you doing in the cockpit of a race car? We again, we don't mean to compare Barber and Phoenix, but just from a driver's perspective, give people an idea that there's more going on than just turning the wheel right and left. What adjustments are you making? What do you have under your control in terms of the cockpit?
Well, for sure. I mean, the oval here at Phoenix is always keeping you very busy because, like I said earlier, 1 and 2 is different from 3 and 4. So inside the car, we have the front anti-roll bar that we can adjust stiff or softer. Same with the rear anti-roll bar. And the Indy cars, they have weight jackers as well that they can use to adjust the entry of the corner to see how the car feels. So you usually try to use your weight jacker for the entry. You use your bars to kind of adjust the balance middle to exit. So, with the 2 different ends of the racetrack, you can find yourself adjusting your bar twice a lap because you want it to be a little softer through turn 1 and 2 since it's so tight. And then you can kind of stiffen it up through 3 and 4 to get that balance back. So once we go qualifying here, I wouldn't be surprised to see guys adjusting the car for each end of the track.
Let's talk a little bit about your boss last weekend, Ed Carpenter. He's got to be over the moon excited to get back in a race car this weekend.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing I love about Ed. I mean, he's a racer, and I've gotten to really know him over the past, week. And I've always had a lot of respect for Ed just from, the family side to wanting to own his own team to, like, where he is now. And then you really get to know him, like, as a person. And Ed's a racer, man. He loves this. He's in IndyCar because he's passionate about it. And, I'm lucky on my side, too, because he's passionate about helping young guys get their chance and building guys up throughout their careers. So, I'm very lucky we have somebody like Ed Carpenter racing, and I think the guy's a whiz around ovals, right? It's no secret there. So, I think this is a great warm-up for him, and then, he's going to be tough to beat at Indy.
Another guy, young guy, that he's giving a shot to is Spencer Pigot, and Jake Query has found him on pit road.
As a matter of fact, Spencer Pigot has the headsets on and is listening in to the team owner and driver this weekend in Ed Carpenter. And Spencer, let's be honest, I know obviously there's always something to learn in racing, but is it frustrating and is it difficult? I mean, because I know you want to be in a race car. So take me through just kind of the emotions of stepping out of the car on the ovals and sitting and waiting for the next Rotor Street.
Yeah, obviously I'd rather be sitting in the car and racing this weekend, but, I still have to be very thankful for the ride I have this year doing all the road and street courses. So that's obviously the majority of the season, and, it's all right. I still learn a lot. I'm having a good time, watching and listening and cheering the ECR boys on.
You'll be back in the car, obviously, for the Grand Prix of Indianapolis after this event. Where do things stand in terms of seeing Spencer Pigot in the Indianapolis 500?
Yeah, it's something we're obviously working very hard on, and I think it's getting, closer and closer. So, that's the goal right now, is to focus on the 500 and getting a seat in that.
the Indy 500 itself is such a massive event. From an emotional standpoint, obviously from Raceway, I think you'd think, look, I've got enough to worry about just in getting once I'm in the car. How difficult is it to have to deal with the factor of putting yourself in position to get in the car in the first place?
Yeah, I think it's a unique thing about our sport, motorsports in general. It's not just driving the car on the weekends. There's a lot of other things that go into it, but it's, for me, it's another exciting and challenging aspect of it that I enjoy, and hopefully it all works out and I can be in the 500 this year. But obviously I also have a great ride going here on all the road and street courses.
It's weird to see you on level ground here, because I saw you earlier today. You've made the most out of being here in Arizona. Take me through that.
I have, yeah. I mean, been here for a couple of days already, and went up and we both did the Camelback Mountains, so that was fun, and yeah, just kind of exploring a little bit around the town.
Yeah, but I got up there to the very top and was taking pictures, was really proud of myself. And then I saw you and you said, oh, yeah, I was here yesterday, too. So you've done this more than once, right? You're going back. Obviously, tomorrow you got time before the race, right? You're going to do it again?
Yeah, probably not tomorrow. I think 2 times is enough.
It's a heck of a workout, I can tell you that. And at 44, you feel it in your knees. But I'll let you get back on the headset and, keep us posted. Obviously, we'd love to see you at the Indy 500 as well.
All right, thanks a lot.
That's Spencer Piggott again, Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka. He's Ed Carpenter, of course, the car owner, and the guy piloting that number 20 right now finds himself 8th so far in the early ongoing here at this practice session at Phoenix International Raceway, and sitting right now in that Chevrolet. They're looking over some telemetry and data, and then Ed Carpenter will get back out onto this track.
You have done your share of rock and mountain climbing. Any of that on the agenda this weekend?
Well, I've kind of cut a lot of the rock climbing out until after May. I think it's funny. I'm glad to see a lot of the IndyCar guys, coming out here and getting excited about, some small mountaineering things. And, I try to keep dragging everybody in to get into rock climbing, but nobody wants to take it too far and get hurt. And that was one thing, too. It's like I had a big trip planned to Yosemite Valley to, either attack El Cap or Half Dome before the 500 this year. Then once I signed my contract, I was like, yeah, I think I'm good with not climbing until after the race, So it's funny how it kind of puts it in perspective. I still love climbing in the gym, but, right now I'm a racer right now. I'm just 100% focused on the task at hand. I don't want to take anything away from the Indy 500.
Let's talk about how receptive the folks at AJ Foyt Racing, and especially Larry Foyt, we talked to him during the Barber weekend. They were quick to sign off and give the thumbs up to your opportunity with Ed Carpenter.
Yeah, no, for sure. I talked with Larry before, I was able to tell Ed yes, because, I just wanted to talk with him since we already had something in place with them. And, Larry said it's a great opportunity for myself, especially learning pit stops and things like that, but he told me to make sure I didn't get hurt. He said be careful because, he didn't want anything to happen to my wrist going into the month of May. But, I think it was a win-win for all of us. Now I'm familiar with the systems, with just getting in and out of the pit lane, how to hit your marks, time and time again. And, of course, that's going to change in Indy with a little bit, faster coming off the track, getting into pit lane. But, now it's not completely foreign. I have a good idea to kind of think about it before it comes time to do it again.
Well, the team took pretty good care of you in terms of your pit stops. Didn't seem like you had to deal with a lot of traffic. They by design, I think, gave you an opportunity to come in and minimize the risk, if you will.
Yeah, luckily, with the strategy that we were doing, it kind of gave me an open box all the time, which allowed my job a little easier to get in and hit the marks, and overshot the first one a little bit because we were just coming in for a splash and go. But, I was able to bring her in from that and hit the marks perfectly from there on out. And I finally got to save fuel on my last stint. And, I kind of got a little bit of everything that race that gave me a good idea of what I'm getting myself into. So, honestly, it was like an entire test day from Friday to Sunday, just split into very short sessions with a long one on Sunday.
Zach, we're 25 minutes or so into this session now, and quite frankly, we haven't seen a lot of takers. There's a lot of ones and twos up there. Power's turned 11 laps. Let's see, Castro Neves has turned 7. A lot of drivers have turned just basically an install lap. And there's about 6 cars that we haven't seen at all with 2 hours at their disposal. Is this a tire management issue, or just waiting till conditions change a little bit as they get closer to what they'll run in under qualifying?
I honestly think it's a little bit of both because, on that side of you get both ends, that's going to be a positive. You got guys out here that are rubbering up the track, which is going to help you conserve tires, and by you not running, you're conserving your tires yourself. But, I think as it starts cooling off down here and the track gets a little more in the shade, we're going to see more and more guys go out because, as of right now, we're not going to qualify in this temperature. We're not going to race in this temperature. So really, if you're comfortable with your car in testing, I would keep waiting until you got to that, final, hour or so when the conditions are a little closer. But if you're guys like Andretti Autosports who didn't really have a strong test here, I'd be trying to get on it, just to get an idea before we got to race conditions.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway, of course, an entity of its own, but you talk about other events on the schedule. Certainly Long Beach, the history and tradition there. Watkins Glen, the history and tradition there. A place like Road America. This one, quite frankly, Zach, belongs right up there. When you look down through the list of winners over the years, it's a veritable who's who. In the early days, of course, A.J. Foyt, Lloyd Ruby, Don Branson, Jim McElreath, Gary Bettenhausen, Al Sr., and then you go, Sneva, Johnny Rutherford, Rick Mears, of course, Ari Lyondike, Bobby Rahal, the Andrettis. I mean, this has been an historic venue for open-wheel racing for a mighty long time.
It's such a tough place, and, it is like a Long Beach. If you do well at it, it's because you're, a good driver. This is a driver's track, and it's like Milwaukee with steroids, It's the same difficulty as trying to get around Milwaukee quickly, but now you have the banking that adds and helps and hurts you in a way, because Milwaukee, where you don't have any banking at all, the car can kind of move around and slide on you and you can keep it under you. But as you really start to load the car up here, one big moment and the thing's completely gone. So I think that just adds a little more to the difficulty around here. And on top of that, it's extremely hard to try to find a lane to get clean air and pass in. So the good guys know how to fight their way to the front, but the easiest way to get up there is to start up there, and that's what the quick guys are doing as well.
You have to, and I know they're durable, but do you have to baby those Firestone Firehawks to make sure that the tire wear matches the fuel run?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you can build the best tire in the world, and if you're not taking care of it, it's still not going to be any good. So this is one of those places you really just got to mind every little bit, fuel saving your tires, because that's what's going to save you at the end of the day.
As we mentioned, a big win at Long Beach, a popular win. James Hinchcliffe. Let's get more from his pit box from Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, that was a massive win for the Schmidt-Peterson team. Robert Gouet is the strategist on the number 5 for James Hinchcliffe. All right, let's first talk about Phoenix. Not seeing a lot of guys going out. You're one of the teams that are sitting and waiting. How much has to do with the wind, the rubber laid down, the weather? What are we looking at right now?
Mostly the weather. Wind's really high, strong gusts up to 30, 40 mile an hour. So just being overly cautious here, just let everybody else run and see where the track's at, and then we'll make our determination on when to go. So probably looking at another 5 or 10 minutes here.
And certainly a year ago, you guys are one of the teams, a lot of guys got bid out in that turn 2 portion of the racetrack. Have you guys got a better feeling of that part of the racetrack this year when we come back for year 2 here at Phoenix?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've just got a better understanding of the aero kit and where to run the car. So I think we're in a better place this year than we were last year, but just being cautious in terms of running right now.
How happy have you guys been with the start of the season? Right there in the top 5, all separated by 15 points, the win at Long Beach. I would assume spirits got to be awful high with this Schmidt-Peterson group.
Absolutely. Everybody worked really hard over the wintertime, and it's good for everybody's hard work to be paid off. Obviously a satisfying win in Long Beach, and hopefully continue on the momentum to build off the strong start to the season.
And again, you guys said about 10 minutes. You think you'll be heading out?
Yeah, I think it'll be about 10 more minutes before we go.
All right, the wind's still pretty strong, but this 5 car has been awful strong as well so far this season. Mark, of course, you mentioned that win at Long Beach. That's not the only strong result. The 6th at Barber 1 week ago, 9th to start the season at St. Petersburg. 3 top 10s. That's how you keep yourself in the championship hunt. It's been a remarkable story for James Hinchcliffe, and again, we should see that aero machine out on track here in about 10 minutes for Schmidt-Peterson Racing.
Obviously, it could change in a hurry, but as we mentioned a year ago, Simon Pagenaud reeled off 3 wins in a row, and quite frankly, although it was a very consistent season for him, Zach, clearly that's what propelled him to the championship. And I think when you look at the point separation now, the fact that anyone reeled off 3 wins in a row as stout as this paddock was a year ago, anybody that can do that this year would be as equally as impressive. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this 6, 7, 8 point disparity between the top 4 or 5 carry us all the way through to Sonoma.
Oh, I think that's IndyCar racing. That's something we've seen time and time again. And Pagenaud was kind of the exception with that 3-win round off that he had, but I think that just goes to show how strong a driver he is, and how well he gelled with the team in the second year, and especially with Kyle Moyer being the strategist. We don't have to say how good he is, because he's just got so much experience and has done a great job over the past years. And I think like you said, Mark, it's going to be so close throughout the end of the year, but if you can win 2 back-to-back, if you can, I would try to be, everybody's trying, of course, but if you can build up a cushion at the beginning of the year, you just be able to have a little more confidence that if something bad does happen, it's not going to be a complete yard sale for you, because you're going to have some points in the bank. So, these guys are trying to build up biggest leads they can right now, because, like you said, you never know what's going to happen.
I know the lead is only 6, but let's not dismiss maybe, as he has a tendency to do from time to time. Sebastian Bourdais has said repeatedly he's a bit surprised, quite frankly, at the success that they've had out of the box. A first place, a second place, and an 8th place finish to give him that 6-point lead. And he's led 69 laps, all of those in the win at St. Petersburg. And, golly, Zach, he just, he's got his old engineer back, and some familiar faces there, Craig Hampson, and all the races that they won once upon a time. And, Ed Jones had some struggles at Barber, but prior to that had back-to-back top 10 finishes. And I just think you're looking at a solid stable for Dale Coyne. And I think with the experience that Bourdais has, it's not out of the question that he could battle for a championship most of the season.
And how incredible will that be? See Dale Coyne racing Verizon IndyCar champion at the end of the year. And honestly, I was quite surprised as well, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but I mean in a great way, that it's good to see that Dale Coyne is fighting towards the front of the grid now. And I think a lot of that just comes down to the experience that Bourdais has, because young guys like us, we're just eager to get out there, and whatever the situation is, we want to do the best we can. But when you have the experience like somebody like Bourdais has, you know what engineers you want, you know what style of engineer you like, and what clicks well with you. You have all the experience to feed off of years to build that team around you, and build that idea situation to have the best outcome possible. And I think that just goes down to, it's always about the people they have in your team, from the drivers all the way down to the tire getters. It's your engineer relationship that you have is just going to allow you to be so much more confident in what you're doing with the race car. And I think Bourdais kind of figured it out. It just shows that he's got somebody he likes, and it's allowed him to be as quick as he's been this year.
Well, we talk about early parity, and you look at entrant points, not driver standings, but look at entrant points in the top 10. Coyne, Ganassi, Penske, then Schmidt, then Peterson, the top 5, then Penske, then 2 Andretti cars, and then Dale Coyne, and then Andretti Herta Autosport with Kerr Mancini. So that's parity.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great to see that, one small change, well, driver is a big change, but, you can bring that experience and change everything, and, switch the momentum and push it forward. And I think Dale Coyne's only going to keep going up and up and up from here, because you're just getting more and more experience every weekend, and everybody's settling in.
But Coyne, Schmidt, Peterson, those teams being able to run consistently with Andretti Autosport and Penske and Ganassi is because of how many years now that they have data and experience with this chassis engine package, the familiarity with it now, and all the data they have has allowed them to close the gap.
I think so. I mean, I always think your bigger teams are going to benefit from a new chassis right away, because, they have 3, 4, 6 cars at Indy for Andretti. It's just 6 more mouths that you're getting feedback from. And I think the littler teams, they have to struggle a little bit to try to catch up to these big changes. So, I think everybody's kind of settling into this package that we have. Now, granted, that's all going to change over again next year. And as a rookie, that's something I'm kind of looking forward to, because with the new aero package change, everybody's going to be starting on a fresh page. So as a rookie coming in, I think it levels the field a little more than it is right now for a young guy.
Let's head to pit road, check in with Nick Yeoman.
Mark, we're down here. We're starting to see a little bit more action on pit lane. Just saw Connor Daly leave and go back out on the racetrack. We've had a few takers. Will Powers out there right now. Alexander Rossi, Simon Pagenaud as well. Happy to be joined by Tony DeZeno. First time I had a chance to talk to you so far this season here on IndyCar Radio. Tony, of course, covers motorsports for NBC Sports Network. Let's talk about this season. 3 races in the books, 3 different winners, 3 different teams. I know for guys like you and I, we like seeing that parity, don't we?
You know, Nick, the best part about it is we couldn't have predicted it coming into the season. We were concerned it was going to be another year of Chevy and Penske dominance, and yet it's taken till the 3rd race of the year for them to actually do that. You know, seeing Bourdais come from last to first, albeit strategy aided, what Hinchcliffe was able to do, the great story there at Long Beach, and then seeing Joseph break through at Barber last week, we're off to a flying start that I wouldn't really necessarily see him coming.
Safe to say, though, that despite the gains that Honda has made in the offseason, coming here to a place like Phoenix, that it's still going to be an uphill battle?
I think so. There's been a lot of concern that the aero gap is still what it is between Chevy and Honda. The kits are frozen this year. There's not been able to be the changes that we've seen in the past. However, Honda has strength in numbers, and just by the pure numbers, they're going to have more cars closer to the front than they might have otherwise. I think the qualifying tonight will actually help them, whereas because they ran well in the test here tonight when they didn't in the heat of the day earlier.
Of course, at Barber Motorsports Park, the big takeaway was Joseph Newgarden winning his first race, driving for the captain, Roger Penske. You and I have been around this sport for a while. We've watched Joseph mature, coming from Indy Lights. Really the culmination, I think, of a lot of hard work, and I think it's scary just how good that combination could be.
A perfect place for him to get his first win, really, because we've seen the development. He's taken that methodical step year by year. He went from fast but didn't have any results. He got his first podium. Then he was so close to a couple wins. Mid-Ohio sticks out a couple of years ago where he had that bad pit stop. Got the first win at Barber. And he's already beaten Will, Elio, and Simon to winning a Team Penske, which is something that they've all won later. So it's a really impressive job by him to win this early on in his Penske career.
And we mentioned those Team Penske drivers. They're on the racetrack right now. Simon Pagenaud and Joseph Newgarden. They're going to stand on the racetrack and blitz around Will Power. Tony DeZeno from NBC Sports joins us here on Pit Lane. All right, let's talk about the massive story heading into the month of May. Fernando Alonso, your take on just how big of a story this is, not just for IndyCar, but motorsports worldwide.
You know, it's unreal, Nick, because we only get 2 or 3 stories per year, if that just make you say, what? You know, that really, you can't believe it's actually is real and it's happened. I get the text from my European colleague who's our lead F1 rider. He's like, you're not going to believe it. And I'd heard Steph Wilson's deal had fallen through, and I was like, well, there's got to be a reason why this happened. And you see the collaboration to make it happen, the international buzz, what it's taken over the Bahrain Grand Prix a couple weeks ago. Fernando's actually high on life. He'll be in Indy next week for his first test. I mean, he's going to have the amount of data and the resources from that team, and they all want to help him. They all want the sport to be bigger. And Mark Miles is doing a Europe trip next week. That shows you how big a deal this is.
And, of course, is Indianapolis, and that starts here in a couple weeks. First with the Grand Prix, and then obviously the 101st running of the Indianapolis 500. Here in Phoenix, though, this racetrack is going to undergo some massive renovations. Your thoughts on really a radical redesign of what we know oval racing in the United States?
Phoenix, is it? So repeat the question a little loud.
Talking a little bit about the redesign here at Phoenix, moving the front, the main grandstands to the corner, and obviously the start-finish line coming out of turn 2.
Right, it's a big change. I mean, this place has such a great IndyCar history going back to the 60s, but this is going to be the most radical change that the place has ever been. I mean, the dogleg changed a little bit, but with the start-finish being off at turn 2, it'll be better for that amount of fans. However, it's going to take a test to see whether guys are going to be risking to dive bomb into what's now 3 and 4 instead of 1 and 2. This track is so different in that you have to nail the setup separately for different corners. It's going to be fascinating to see. The race here next year, the date hasn't been set yet. It'll be the last configuration for this track in its current mold. And then come 2019, if a return happens, then, it'll be a completely new ballgame.
Hey, final thing I want to ask you. We had a chance last night, you and a lot of media members, a lot of people involved with the sport, to head downtown Phoenix and honor 2 of the legends of the sport, Elio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, of course, in their 20th year racing in the IndyCar. Really special night hosted by Gary Gerald. Those 2 drivers, I know it's been a while since they've won races, but what they mean to this sport, I thought was kind of summed up in the personality they showed last night.
Oh, it was great. I mean, you had Dario and PT bantering with them. Gary, who's been there, would cover them when they were in testing here at this track in Indy Lights in the 90s. They've both been instrumental to the sport. They've made great fans. They've made a lot of national media attention, and they're a great measuring stick for the young generation. I mean, you look at what Elio was able to do getting pole at Long Beach a couple weeks back. Shows he still got it. TK was half the price of admission last year on restarts. So the fact that they're still kicking as well as they are against the young generation, but they're still good, keep them here as long as they want to be here.
Tony DeZino, one of the best covering motorsports. Give everyone watching and listening at home where they can follow you on Twitter and, of course, read your stuff.
Yeah, NBCSports.com/motors. Tony DeZino on Twitter, DIZINNO. And, of course, we have qualifying and race coverage on NBCSN this week. Look forward to hearing all your stuff on IndyCar Radio, too, Nick. It's good stuff.
Appreciate it as always. Tony DeZino, you're done here on Pit Lane, Mark.
Yeah, and we got to spend some time with his dad as well last night. His dad lives here in Phoenix, and enjoyed that event for sure. How about J.R. Hildebrand, Zach Veach, P1?
Well, I knew he missed, not being in the car at Barber, but it's really showing how bad he missed being in this race car. I mean, the past 4 laps he's done, he's just going quicker and quicker. So I'm pretty glad I had him helping me at Barber, giving me some advice. So maybe I'll be able to use that against him in the future.
Business picking up a little bit on course. We've got Hildebrand, Dixon, Aloshin, Andretti, and Power at the top 5. Speeds at 179 up, popping up to 186.687. Scott Dixon, just like that, goes P1. Aloshin at 184.6. As we mentioned, Andretti, Power, Castroneves, Carpenter, Newgarden, Munoz, Hunter Ray, the top 10. Then Kanaan, Rossi, Pagenaud, Bourdais, and Kimball, the top 15. Ray Hall, 16th quick. Then rookie Ed Jones, Connor Daly, Hinch, Sato, and Chilton, but again, some of those toward the bottom, just now getting up to pace. They took the wait-and-see approach and have only been out for a handful of laps. Back to pit road and Jake Query.
One of the things I remember from a year ago, Mark, that was very interesting, and typically is each time you come to Phoenix, and that was the following storyline. As these cars go into turn number 1, as a matter of fact, for that matter, if they're coming down pit road, but it's obviously a bigger issue when at speed, that sun, right here in the Valley of the Sun, of course, the track faces towards the west as you head into turn number 1. Now, right now, it's fantastic because it's a sun-splashed track with the exception of the high bank in turn number 1 because of the grandstand that is blocking away that sun behind it. But as the sun sets, and we've got another hour and 15 or so minutes in this practice session, so as the sun sets and we get a little bit closer here towards the 6 o'clock local time, you're starting to look directly into that sun. And I remember that being something that a lot of teams just decided to go ahead and wait just a few minutes before that sun would come all the way down. Now, I don't know how much of a factor that was in terms of figuring out the timing for this practice session and then, of course, qualifying later tonight. Mark, the other thing that becomes interesting is, if you recall, we had a practice session a year ago here, a substantial amount of which was after the sun had gone down and that track cooled off just a little bit. We're going to have a much different condition tomorrow night. It's going to be a beautiful and pleasant night, an absolutely perfect night to come out and watch racing, but it is going to be a little bit cooler, of course, because that sun will have already set. But we'll see how it affects these drivers and whether or not they decide to go ahead and wait out the 15 or 20 minutes or so that it just so happens that that sun is going to be coming right through that main grandstand of turn number 1.
That event last night we mentioned here in Phoenix, honoring Elio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan. We had a pretty entertaining table, I think, with Tony DeZino and yours truly and Nick Yeoman and Mark Robinson and Philip B. Wilson. We also had one of the newest media members, if you will, covering the Verizon IndyCar Series, filling some pretty big shoes, I'd say, of his predecessor, Kurt Cavan. He's the motorsports insider for the Indianapolis Star. We welcome to the broadcast booth Jim Aiello. Jim, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a good time last night, and boy, I'll tell you, the stars were out in terms of motorsports. How about there were some heavy hitters here last night?
That was great, and they all got to get their chance to contribute and ask some questions and maybe take a couple shots at the guests of honor last night. So that made it a lot of fun for everybody.
So now, as we mentioned, you're filling the shoes of Kurt Cavan, doing the best you can, certainly, for a guy that I don't know. I think maybe covered Wilbur Shaw once upon a time when Wilbur was a race. I shouldn't say that. Kurt's the same age as I am, I think. But anyway, so just your thoughts and impressions of. I know you spent a lot of time at the Speedway in the month of May last year with Kurt, working with him in the various platforms with the Indianapolis Star. But how have things gone for you to start this 2017 campaign?
Smoothly, I think. I mean, that's up to my readers and other people to actually say that. But no, I think it's gone. I think it's gone pretty well. What I found here at IndyCar is that everyone has been really wanting to help, willing to help. Anytime I need anything, somebody jumps up, and that's been great for me. And of course, it's good to have Kurt around because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, obviously, of course, he moved into the position of vice president, in charge of communications for the Verizon IndyCar Series, and that's got to be a valuable asset for you for sure, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. If I know that if I have a question, I can run something by him, and he can kind of take off that IndyCar hat, maybe put the journalist hat back on every once in a while, and let me know what he thinks is a good idea.
University of Missouri grad?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. And then spent some time in papers throughout the state of Indiana?
Yeah, bounced around a little bit. Was in Columbus, was in Greenfield, and then got a chance to come back to Indy Star. I had interned there a couple years back. So then, yeah, just started working in the sports department and working my way up.
Have you, so far, kind of like I did way back in 1996 when I first started, have you found yourself when you go to places like St. Pete and Long Beach, you pinch yourself a little bit thinking, man, did this really happen?
Every time. I can't believe some of the things I've been able to do, I've been able to see already in just the first couple months of having this job, and I haven't even gotten to May yet. So,
are you surprised with the fan interaction? I know your Twitter followers probably exploded shortly after the news came out. You've been blown away by the interest and the passion and enthusiasm of the fans.
Absolutely. I mean, I shouldn't say blown away because I knew going in how much fans cared about the sport and the 500 and Kurt. Like I said, he was a legend, so people knew when he left.
Don't say that. I mean,
that's going to go to his head now.
Yeah, my goodness, please. But no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, fine. He was an established veteran.
There you go.
That's better. Experienced. Now everyone knew who he was, and then he was kind enough to tweet out that I would be replacing him at the Star. And yeah, like I said, the followers have been great, and I can say most of the feedback I've gotten from the fans has been overwhelmingly positive, and then a few times when I've screwed up, they've let me know about it. So I appreciate that.
But make no mistake about it, you don't want to be him because you're not him,
sure.
And you're going to put. I'm sure you're looking forward to putting your own spin on things and adapting your style to covering the sport.
And I was going to say too, don't feel bad if you screw up and the fans let you know, because they do the same thing for me too. So that's just how this sport is. It's that constructive criticism that lets us all be our best.
Yeah, it makes me feel part of the family.
No, but you've been doing great work from a driver's point of view, so we're happy to have you.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I like to bring a different perspective. Somebody like Kurt has been involved for 30 years and obviously can bring that to the sport, to the journalism. But for me, like I said, I've been involved a little bit less, so I can kind of see things with fresh eyes, I like to think.
Jim Aiello is our guest, the new motorsports insider for the Indianapolis Star. Let's take the new off of it because he's been on the job for a few months now. Scott Dixon, Hildebrand, Alosha Andretti, and Power continue to be your top five. An hour has just about elapsed in your session. Most compelling story to this point, is it in fact what we've talked about, the fact that Dale Coyne is currently leading the battle for the points championship?
Well, I was going to say Alonso. I thought that's where you were going to go with that. But of course, the Dale Coyne being involved for this long, I think when Sebastian Bourdais so far has played it very coy too, which I've enjoyed. Every time you say, "Are you going to be around for the championship?" The end, he's like, "Oh, I don't know. We'll see about that." But one race in, two races in, three races in, he's right there, and he's managing to finish in the top 5, top 10 every time. So, yeah, that's been great. I think it's great for the sport. I think everyone loves a little parody. Even some of the Penske guys were talking about how good having a Bourdais up the top was great.
Caution on the course, a build-up of rubber. Happy to have Jim Aiello as our guest from the Indianapolis Star. And Jim, let's face it. You mentioned Fernando Alonso, and I said the most compelling story of the Verizon IndyCar Series season. I separate the two, as I think most often do. As the season progresses, we actually see a couple of pieces of debris on the course that I have to go out and retrieve. But anyway, Jim, that is the one time during the year that I've noticed in all the years that I've covered this. Once we get to Detroit and then Iowa and Texas and places like that, teams start talking about points and how important points are for the championship. Once we clear the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, for the next 2.5 weeks, you won't hear any mention of points. It's an entity in all itself. And this Alonso story, I think, it fell out of the sky, and I was impressed with the way he handled himself last weekend in very unfamiliar surroundings at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yeah, he seemed to really enjoy himself. He seemed to enjoy kind of expressing his humor and talking about how the openness of IndyCar, and like I said, he really kind of just embraced it all, and fans and the drivers and the teams have embraced him. So I think it's going to work out great for everyone. Obviously, we'll learn more about how he does on May 3rd. I'm looking forward to that when he tests at IMS. But yeah, no, I think he handled himself very well, and I know he's got a busy schedule. I don't envy him.
You had one of the best tweets I saw, Zach, after the announcement. You said you look forward to joining you for rookie orientation.
Well, see, everybody was commenting, and it's like, Veach just won the internet. And, like, it took me a while, and I'm like, what are they even talking about? Because I was just being nice. I was like, hey, it's going to be cool to have two-time world champion, join me for rookie orientation. And then I kept reading it, and I was like, ooh, okay, I guess that did sound that way. But, I've told this story before, and it's like, when we made our announcement, I knew at that point that Jack Harvey was going to be a rookie, and of course Ed Jones. And at that point, I was feeling pretty good. I mean, I knew that both very great drivers, but they've beaten me before I've beaten them. So I think it was like fair that I was like, say, rookie of the year is still a pretty fair shot, like no problem. And it's going to be tough, but there's a good chance that it could be. And then I woke up Wednesday morning and I see like Fernando Alonso set for rookie of the year to 500, and I was like, okay, well, it just got a whole lot harder. So, but I think it's great for the sport to have him join us. I mean, I can't wait, to be at the track with him, because I remember being like 8 years old and playing Fernando in a video game. So it's going to be cool to like actually be racing against him now. So I think it gives us a great opportunity to showcase, ourselves as rookies, with Harvey and Ed Jones, because if one of the three of us beats Fernando Alonso for Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis, I think it's going to make, historic headlines, but that's definitely going to be a very tall task.
I just think it's sad that you make it sound like the age of 8 was a long time ago.
It was, man.
Let's go to pit road and check in with Jake Query.
Mark, I'm just going to jump in with this because I can't be the only one that thought it. When I was 8, I was playing Fernando on ABBA on a K-Tel 33 album. Right. And I know you're right there with me, so that was the first thing I thought when Zach said that.
All right, Jake Query on pit road, and again, we're waiting on the debris to be picked up and some of the rubber being laid down on the course. So, Jim, I guess what you're going to put a cot in the media center at 16th at Georgetown here in a couple of weeks. You probably have, I think, done some advanced work and prepared some stories. So, for those that are listening, either here on the PA or on IndyCar.com or all the usual platforms, wall-to-wall coverage by the Indianapolis Star the month of May?
Absolutely, and you're giving me more credit than I probably deserve for getting ahead on my 500 coverage work. I'm just trying to keep up with what's going on now. But no, right now I'm doing some work on the 67 race, the 50-year anniversary of what is probably one of the, if not the greatest Indy 500 field of all time. So I'm talking to a lot of those guys and trying to recreate the magic of that field.
And I think we've talked about a little bit that some of our focus will be on the years that ended in 7, and doing a little background and research. I was amazed that of those 9 races, 7 of those races were won by drivers with multiple wins. And I think the number totals 19 collectively. So the year that ends in 7 has been awfully good to drivers at the Indianapolis.
I'm not liking where you're going with this, Mark.
2 bolts were over in turn 2. So in addition to the issues with rubber, there's certainly some debris that they had to get taken care of, and that appears to be close to being wrapped up. And hopefully we can get back to action real soon. So, Jim, again, give us an idea of where people can find you on Twitter. And, of course, remind folks that may not be aware of the Star News website and then the tabs that they need to click on to stay up to date with your stories all throughout the course of the year.
You can find my stories on indystar.com/motorsports. And if you're not going to IndyStar, you can find them on USA Today Sports. They're up there as well. And then as far as Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Jim Aiello, JIMAYELLO.
Well, let me say this. In all of the years that I've been doing this, you have now, I think, tied Kurt Cavan for the number of appearances on our show. So one more and you will exceed him, and we appreciate that, and we'll remind Kurt of that.
It'll be nice to beat him at something this early.
All right. We look forward to it. And again, you're welcome here anytime. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Thanks very much.
All right. Jim Aiello from the Indianapolis Star. We appreciate him being here. Let's go back to pit road and Jake Query.
Looks like this session is going to be complete for Ed Carpenter. He's gotten on the headsets now to listen in with J.R. Hildebrand, but got out of his number 20 Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka machine. Not sure what the exact problem is. Right now we'll just list it as the proverbial electrical gremlins, but he clearly was not happy, declined to comment, went down, got on the headsets, and his session in terms of driving looks like has come to an end, and now he is going to be on the headsets for J.R. Hildebrand.
Okay, so again, caution on the course. Some debris, a couple of bolts needed to be picked up. Look like some other debris out there as well. I'm not sure the winds have calmed down much. They've certainly changed directions, but there's now about an hour left in this session, and we'll see if business pick up a little bit. So we're being told we'll be back to green in under a minute, so let's take a break. Come back with more for the Firestone broadcast booth. This is the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
During the 1969 Indy 500, Mario Andretti's crew couldn't get his tire to come off, so he had no choice but to keep driving on it. That tire held up the whole race and took Mario to the winner's circle. Right, Mario?
That's right. If it wasn't for the dependability of Firestone tires, I wouldn't be an Indy 500 champion.
Here's to making more champions with the official tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Phoenix International Raceway. As we come back, green flag is out. Graham Rahal and others leave pit road almost immediately. I'm Mark Janes. Thanks again to Jim Aiello from the Indianapolis Star for being our guest in the booth. Look forward to his coverage all throughout the month of May and throughout the course of this season. J.R. Hildebrand, Mikel Aloshin, Marco Andretti, and will power your top five. Elio Castroneves, sixth quick. Then Ed Carpenter, Pagenaud, Bourdais, and Newgarden in the top 10. Munoz, 11th quick. Rahal is 12th quick. Hunter Ray, Kanaan Rossi, Kimball, Sato, Daly, Ed Jones, James Hinchcliffe, and Max Chilton. Top speed so far, 186.687 miles per hour. A lot of folks are friends in media that we have not had the chance to visit with throughout the course of this season and have so much time during this session. We thought we would right that wrong, and one of them has worked with us in a variety of capacities. He's been in the booth, handed his notes. He's been on pit road. You name it, he's done it for us, and we're happy to have him with us. Of course, our great relationship continues with Joe Birkmeyer, Steve Winnick, and Patrick Steffen, the good folks at Trackside Online. Patrick, welcome to Phoenix. Welcome back to the broadcast booth.
Well, thank you, Mark. I think you just pointed out that Wally's fired me from a variety of jobs with the radio network. On numerous occasions, I might.
Well, that's his favorite thing to do, Patrick. So welcome to the club.
I take it as a badge of honor. I've been fired that many times.
Talking about our network director, of course, who probably feels like he's running a daycare more often than not. But what a job he does at it for sure. But as we mentioned, Scott Dixon, Hildebrand continue 1-2. What a quick rebound, recuperative powers, Patrick, so far out of J.R. Hildebrand.
I'm gonna, he's my local guy now. Lives up in Colorado with me. We'll hand that the altitude and some good surgery back down in Indianapolis. I think that's been the big thing. And I think he's feeling the pressure to perform this year and really pushed himself to get back as fast as possible. He's got somebody like Zach, wanting that seat, and a lot of other guys, so he can't stay out of that car very long.
Well, and I think the thing that's important is the relationship that he developed with Ed Carpenter Racing over the past few years, Patrick. I mean, we had him in the booth with us last year at Road America, and you would see him in addition to his run at the Indianapolis 500. He was around the race team a lot, so I think that made that decision pretty easy for Ed Carpenter when the time came.
I agree, and he is so smart that he's like having an extra engineer on the team. When him hanging around is adding value, just being there, not even being in the car, but his engineering aptitude, I guess would be the right word. That's he adds just value to that team just being there.
Oh, 100%. That's something I noticed even at Barber that I kind of wanted to emulate in a way, because just listening to him go into such detail about the car or certain adjustments, I was like, this is a guy that really understands how a car is working, and he's just had the experience of that. And taking it back to how you said JR's always been around the team, that's something I thought as well. Is we all know his past at Indy, and of course he wants to make up for that, but when he was out of the car, he was still around helping out with IndyCar Radio. He was still around with Ed Carpenter Racing. He was making himself present whenever he could possibly, and I think that's what led him being back into the Verizon IndyCar Series. And not only is that motivation for myself, but other young drivers or guys that have been in IndyCar and out now. It's just you got to be present. You got to keep working, and maybe that opportunity will be there.
And I'm not, let's face it, we've talked about it off air. And that's not a template solely his, young man. You've done a pretty good job of that yourself over the past couple of years. Another run at Indy Lights and running the two-seater and driving pace cars and agreeing to be even a pit reporter even though you bailed on us to drive a car last week.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, but that's what it takes, does it not? I mean, you can't sit at home and wait on the phone to ring because it's too competitive.
Well, exactly. If out of sight, out of mind. I think it just comes down to one of those things is if you want it badly enough, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure that you're, at these race weekends. And, even from my standpoint, it's all last year. I was breaking even just coming to these races, but I was doing, things like two-seater, and, I got the enjoyment of working with radio with you guys, but that gave me the opportunity as a means to be at the racetrack and be around these people. And I think that's what it comes down to, and that's what we've seen JR has. He wants to be in the sport, so he's made himself present.
Well, plus being around makes it, when your opportunity does come, like you saw, Zach, then now you're ready. You're up to speed. You don't have to get re-educated with anything. You're in tune with the team and everything. That helps a tremendous amount to have that knowledge to just jump in the car.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I think Hildebrand fills a little bit of pressure, as we touched on. I mean, we just know Newgarden left big shoes to fill, but we got to think about Pagenaud with his first year at Penske, or everybody else's first year when they come back to IndyCar. It's hard to come back out of nowhere and be a standout, because that's just how difficult the Rise in IndyCar Series is.
All top to bottom, Will Power talks about all the names, the big guys, the top 10 that've been around for years, all talk about how tough it is these days in the IndyCar Series. There's just no. There's no. All right, I got those couple guys.
It never gets.
You don't have that. You don't have that. I mean, there's no. I mean, to not be 21st on the timesheet takes some work here.
Well, and how many racing series can boast the fact that someone a couple of times in the last couple of years has started 21st and won a race?
Exactly. Starting straight off with Bourdais at St. Petersburg this year.
Let's go to pit road, check in with Nick Yeoman.
Well, let's catch up with Kyle Moyer. He's on the pit box. Simon Pagenaud's turned 33 laps at the last check, about 9th quickest. A lot of work being done on the race car. What's Simon saying as we're an hour into this practice session?
Yeah, we're just working on a race car. I mean, we're in the heat. It's going to be cooler tomorrow, but, our car showed up like it did at the test. So, the Menard car is pretty good. I think all of our team cars are pretty good, too. We're just finding traffic and running that. We got 3 things we wanted to come here and try in this 2 hours, and we're through half of it now. So we'll do one more try here and then probably fuel it up and run it full run.
I was going to say, a lot of it trimming out for speed for qualifying. I mean, how much importance do you put on qualifying here in terms of setting it up for the race?
We'll just take the downforce off for qualifying. I don't think we're doing anything suspension-wise. It's just a matter of, dragging the downforce off of it and guessing right, And we might do one run right at the end to try that, but, Ben's pretty good at getting it right off the bat.
You've got a little while now with Simon Pagenaud. How much downforce does he like to take off a race car? Does he like one planted to the racetrack, or can you trim it out for him a little bit?
He runs it pretty light, especially for qualifying. And even in the race, we're probably out of our teammates. We're probably in the middle a little bit. But yeah, you're talking about little movements here or there. But we run pretty light for racing, especially here, especially when it's going to get cool tomorrow.
I appreciate it. That's Kyle Moyer, the strategist for our defending champion, Simon Pagenaud. Mark, some drivers like those cars a little freer than others. Nice to hear a little insight. Simon Pagenaud likes that car a little light. Of course, this is a long practice session, still an hour to go, so a lot of work to be done for all these teams up and down pit lane.
And Nick, every now and then it's okay to mention that he's a proud graduate of the greatest class to ever leave Monrovia High School, the class of 1982.
Yeah, I did a straw poll one time, and they said there was only really one distinguished honor from that class, and it wasn't you, my friend.
Well,
it was Kyle Moyer.
You could throw Todd and Gary Bentonhausen in with that.
Fair enough.
Gary's twin sons for sure, but no, Mo's been at it a long time. Started working for the late Gary Bentonhausen. In fact, that's where his career began. But back to the action on the track. Dixon, Hildebrand, Aloshin, Andretti, and Will Power your top 5. Elio is 6th quick. Bourdais, Carpenter, Pagenaud, and Kanaan your top 10. Patrick Steffen, we talk about guys like Zach Veach. We talk about J.R. Hildebrand, the opportunity he got because of the movement of Joseph Newgarden. Juan Montoya going to be, in the car on a part-time basis at Penske. So a little event last night. While it had a retirement feel to it, and celebrating the 20 years of Elio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, I think a couple of front row starts, a pole over the last few races, and as competitive as TK has been, he's 10th quick on timing and scoring. Those guys, I don't think are looking to retire anytime in the near future. So where are the opportunities going to come? Are they going to come when a Yukos Racing comes into the sport full time, or a Carlin, or maybe Michael Shank likes what happens in his cooperative effort, with Jack Harvey at the Speedway, and he decides to go full time?
I think it's the latter. I think it's what you said. It's going to come from growth in the car count. Frankly, those drivers. I mean, even if they were to move around a little from team to team, Tony Kanaan's not going anywhere. I mean, if you have a ride available and Tony Kanaan's available and you don't put him in your car, that makes no sense. Frankly, almost even commercially, because he's so popular, he helps to attract sponsorship dollars too. So it would make no sense to do that. So you're going to need to see some growth in the field. I'd like to see us get back up to 20, 25, 26 cars on a regular basis, and I think that'll make a huge difference. And perhaps the aero kit next year is going to be a big piece of that, because now it re-levels the playing field. You only got to buy one kit. Everybody gets the same parts. I think that might help things going into 2018. And the series got some momentum going. It's just got to keep one foot in front of the other, keep just doing what it does best. And to me, I always keep saying I'm not looking for IndyCar to become as big as NASCAR or IndyCar to do anything other than be the best IndyCar it can be. Just be good at what IndyCar is, and that's the diversity of it, from the drivers to the different tracks. I think they keep doing that, and IndyCar will be just fine.
Patrick Steffen, Trackside Online, in the booth with yours truly, Mark Janes and Zach Feets. Let's go down to pit road, check in with Jay Query.
Ryan Norman is one of the Indy Lights drivers that is sitting here and watching. He's in Alexander Rossi's pit because, of course, he's running for Andretti Autosport, his maiden voyage. As a matter of fact, in the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. Ryan, let's begin with this. I find your story fascinating because here you are in the Indy Lights, but your first racing background was not with four wheels but two. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I started racing dirt bikes from the age of 6 and did that all the way up until I was 13. Completely different, but I guess from a mental standpoint on how you approach things and get the confidence to get faster is very similar. But I've always loved cars, and ever since I went to the Indy 500 in 2009, I was definitely addicted to it. So, and that's what I wanted to do ever since. Obviously,
you came up here, and a lot of people, when you made the jump into the Indy Lights, it wasn't as if you don't have experience in winning championships. But how big a learning curve has it been for you so far this year, if at all?
From a car standpoint, I think the Atlanta car is very similar in speed to the Indy Lights car. The only difference I would say is the competition is a lot more tight. Instead of having 2 or 3 guys that are my main competition, you have the whole field. So qualifying is definitely a lot smaller of error, gets you all the way to the back. So I would say qualifying is probably the biggest difference. We're showing good race pace and all that stuff. I think just the things to work on is qualifying right now.
Right now we're under a caution here at the Phoenix International Raceway for a cut tire out on track in this practice session for the Verizon IndyCar Series. We're talking with Ryan Norman. Flipside is the sponsor, Andretti Autosport in the Indy Lights. Let's talk about Alexander Rossi. You're on the headset, you're watching and listening. Here's a guy that a year ago was kind of in the same situation. New series, new car. What have you learned in talking with him and being able to listen in his session?
There's a lot going on, to be honest. A lot of stuff going on with the engineers, and it's really good to hear his feedback and how he's working with engineers. So things I can learn to also bring back to the Indy Lights side of things. And it's definitely fun being here and getting the opportunity.
Now, when people say there's a lot going on in the business world, sometimes you hold your breath when somebody says, there's a lot going on. That's a good thing or a bad thing when you say there's a lot going on here?
It's definitely a good thing. There's a lot of communication between the engineers and setups and all that stuff, so it's definitely a good thing. It's just definitely a lot to listen into.
For a rookie driver in the Indy Lights, what is the timetable in terms of when you'd like to be able to say, okay, do you have a target race that you say, by that race I want to be completely acclimated, even though obviously you're learning every single event?
I would say by the end of Indy, we're going to try to be consistent in the top 8 is what our main goal is, and then as the year goes on, hopefully, definitely by Mid-Ohio, we would like to be top 5 shooting for podiums.
Of course, you also get to hang out with Fernando Alonso in the month of May in Indianapolis, of course, also a part of the Andretti Autosport stable. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of say that he's my teammate. It's definitely cool to have him in our stable, and it'll be good to learn from him.
Yeah, just walk up to him. Hey, Rook, how are you? Let's go and get some breakfast. Ryan, I'll let you get back on the headset. It looks like Alexander Rossi's brought that number 98 machine back in. So there's a lot going on. I don't want you to miss out on it. Appreciate the time.
All right, thank you.
Ryan Norman, again, Flipside, the sponsor, Andretti Autosport, the team. He's listening in on that Californian Alexander Rossi, who right now stands 15th in terms of the speed charts here in that Honda. And let's face it, Mark, if there's one team that the proof is in the pudding that you just want to be able to listen and have them guide you through, it is that Andretti Autosport team. We saw it a year ago with Brian Herta being able to do that for Michael Andretti and helping Alexander Rossi win that 100th Indianapolis 500.
50 minutes remaining in this session. Patrick Steffen, Trackside Online, joins us. Speaking of Indy Lights, Patrick, how well has the Trackside Online ladder program been received? You guys started that, I believe, a year ago, Steve Whittick, and you guys getting together to cover the Mazda Road to Indy Series.
Oh, well, I'll straight up tell you, I'm really enjoying it, and it's getting well received in the paddock. I think a lot of fans are enjoying it. The Mazda Road to Indy deserves some focused coverage. I mean, it really does. That they've done such a great job building a program there, with defined steps and scholarships all the way up. Heck, scholarships from go-karts into the other little Formula Series and then even into USF 2000. They've done such a great job with that. We felt like they needed some focused coverage at TSOladder.com, and we've had a lot of fun with it. And it seems like people are enjoying it. And they're putting on some great races. I'll be honest, it can make for a very busy weekend sometimes when you got 4 series out there and you got no breaks. But it's still a ton of fun, and we really enjoy doing it.
Yeah, busy enough at Barber, and did not have the Pro Mazda series there, and yet it was still plenty busy. And Zach, you of course a beneficiary of that Mazda Road to Indy series. We enjoyed watching you come up through that ladder, and you see what the folks at Trackside Online are doing, and the promotion that it gets, the commitment we have to it at IndyCar Radio and at NBCSN. I mean, the sky's the limit for these young drivers, for sure.
Well, as a driver, especially coming up and being new, and you feel a little out of place when you first start the Mazda Road to Indy because it's this whole new place and nobody really knows who you are. And it's programs like IndyCar Radio and Trackside Online that kind of gets our name out there in our faces where people start to relate. Well, hey, maybe this kid is going to be around for a long time, so maybe we should start paying attention. So, as a driver, I can speak for myself and everybody on the road to Indy. We appreciate everybody does to share our stories, because then it makes us feel like we're doing something that matters because people are paying attention to it and they're following each step of the way. And Mazda Road Indy is what gives us that opportunity. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have made it up to my first IndyCar start, and I guess luckily now I call myself an IndyCar driver with the month of May coming up. And I think it just all comes down to we're in this together. We build up our young guys. We want to share their story because hopefully one day they're going to be the legends. And we all want to be having that 20-year party like Castroneves and Kanaan celebrated last night. So I think that all starts with our story being shared when we're young.
An additional part of that is, the Mazda Road to Indy, they do a good job of, the drivers don't just show up and know how to talk to the media. They give them a little education on that. Plus, if there's a press conference that needs to happen, or they need some get some PR for one of the kids, they come to us, as reporters, and they say, hey, can you go talk to them? And then we do the interviews with them. We kind of, I wouldn't say coach them up because that's not our job.
You help us.
But us being there helps them learn the system as they go up of how to deal with the media, how to deal with being on TV. And I'm going to applaud Mark here and IndyCar and everybody else. I wasn't at Barber, but I could sit in my living room and watch on YouTube, watch all the practice sessions, watch all those races, in crystal clear HD, and that level of coverage for the series also. I mean, it's streaming, etc., but people that are race fans and supporters of racing know how to find it, and they are finding it. And I think that adds a lot of value to those drivers.
And those conduits help you guys when it comes to securing sponsorship dollars.
Oh, definitely, because then you're just getting more eyes on it, and it's easier to show people that you're trying to help, support you in your career, what you're doing when you have things accessible like that. And of course our families appreciate it too, because whether in USF 2000 on your way up, everybody's been such a monumental part of supporting your career. They want to see what you're doing. And we were traveling around, not as much as IndyCar, but we're still, busy all summer. So, a lot of those races people can't make it to. So it's good to have, that viewership.
Zach, let me ask you a question about the wind. I'm sure you guys have talked about it before, but it looks to me like it's going to really load you up getting into 1 and 2. When does it loosen the car up? I'm guessing that side wind hitting you right at the apex of 3 right now is not a pleasurable experience.
Well, the thing we got to look at, too, you got the flags in the middle pylon. They're going in a direction. Then you look at the flags that are on our left here on the grandstands overlooking the front straightaway. They're straight ahead. So the wind's constantly changing around this track just by where the grandstands are. So as you said, yeah, if you got a bunch of headwind going into turn 1, the car is going to be loaded up on you. But as you go into turn 3, you got a tailwind. So as that car starts to rotate and turn, you got to think of the side of the car like a big billboard for the wind to hit. So as that car turns into the corner and gets sideways and the wind's hitting the side of the car, that's when it starts getting free and sliding around on you. So that's one thing as a rookie, like I had to think, I was like, wow, so the wind pushes the side of the car and that's what frees it up. I mean, you know, when you're young, you're like, wow, I didn't know it was that sensitive. But when you're doing the speeds these guys are doing, any little bit changes it.
I found it interesting as we go back to green that Robbie McGee one year when he first got to Indy, he told me about all the different places on the racetrack he was at Indy that he was looking at the windsocks, all the different spots around there, and he's had to go here and look at a windsock, go here and look at a windsock, go here and look at a windsock. And I was just fascinated by that. He actually is flying jets now.
Same thing.
He's like being a pilot.
These are airplanes we don't want to ever leave the ground.
That's right.
So you know, and I think going back to Indy Lights even, that's something that we learned at the Freedom 100 because you have that windsock on the pylon. You have that windsock in turn 3, and even when we get to -5 degrees on the wing, we got to look at those in lights.
Well, Patrick Steffen, before we let you go, give folks one more time how they can get a subscription to Trackside Online and get updates all throughout the week and going into the race weekend.
Trackside Online, $22 a year. I think it's a fantastic value. That gets you all the content, all of our original content, the fantastic race previews that Steve Wittich puts out every weekend, which everything from where to eat, other local racetracks that are running, anything you could possibly want to do around a race, that's in the preview, and very much enjoy getting that stuff out to everybody. And we kind of personalize our coverage, so it's coming from us. You'll know who's writing it every weekend, and so it's a lot of fun for us. And again, $22, tracksideonline.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at TSO_Patrick.
Great having you here. We'll have you back real soon.
Thanks, Patrick.
Patrick Steffen, our guest from Trackside Online. We have a special guest before we get to him with Dick Yeoman. A quick update from Pit Road and Jay Query.
Actually, let's go ahead and go to Nick real quick. We've got a new sponsor for Marco Andretti. I was going to talk with Mark Falcone, who is the Vice President of Sales for Erboto Beef Jerky, but we'll do that in just a second. Nick?
Yeah, go ahead and stand by there, Jake Query. We'll talk here with you in just a moment. First, let's catch up with Brian Swerber. He is the track president here at Phoenix International Raceway. And Brian, the first thing we want to talk about is this massive, massive project that you guys have going on. In November of 2016, it was approved. You guys started it a couple months ago. For race fans that are going to come out to Phoenix International Raceway in the coming years, this place is going to look awful different, isn't it?
Yeah, it really will. Clearly Phoenix Raceway has got the historical pedigree, and we produce great races over the years. But, it is an older facility, and it's time to modernize it and give it a facelift. And so we knew that we needed to do that, and we thought, gosh, if we're going to go that far, let's take it a bit further and see what we could do to really take this venue and create one of a kind, especially in the infield, that race fans from all over the country would love to come and visit. And we've broken ground, and I think we're going to be able to do just that.
Of course, the announcement was made in January of 2017. In February, you guys started the project. The most noticeable thing in terms of racing is the replacement of that start and finish line that I think is going to make this place unique compared to anywhere in the world.
It really will be, Nick. That dog leg has been a signature turn at Phoenix Raceway because it produces so much great action over there. The fans absolutely love it. And the IndyCar race next year will be the last race with the start-finish line in its current position. And after that IndyCar race next year for our fall schedule, that start-finish line will now move over to that dog leg, which has created so many incredible moments. And to amp up the excitement, the restart zone is actually going to be in a turn. So if you can imagine, you take something that's already a little crazy, and we just amped it up. So I think the fans are really going to love it.
I think based on the reaction that I've seen so far, a lot of people are excited. You mentioned the fan zone. That place getting completely overhauled, as well as some added tunnels. The seats are going to have cup holders, Wi-Fi. I mean, you guys are really blowing this out of the water.
Yeah, we really are. I think the fans are going to particularly love the infield. We're basically going to bulldoze everything that you see in the infield today. And we're going to create a real state-of-the-art fan zone where fans will have access to Victory Lane. They'll have access to pre-race, all the inspection stations, and all modern garages. And so that's something we don't have today. And so I think the fans are really going to enjoy that. And our infield, our fan zone, will be connected to the grandstands at our new Power Pavilion Midway that's sponsored by DC Solar through a brand new tunnel that's being built. And so they won't have to walk all the way to the other side of the racetrack to get into the infield like they do today. It'll be very convenient. And you mentioned Wi-Fi, and I think we're going to be the first track in America that will have Wi-Fi throughout the whole venue. So we've got comfort, we've got convenience, and connectivity. So the 3 C's, well, you can find those all here at Phoenix Raceway next year.
Of course, with that fan zone being inside the track, you guys are having to make some changes towards the outside of the track. I know the grandstands here on the front stretch will be no more. And talk a little bit about the suites for those that want to spend a little extra money, companies that want to get involved. You guys are overhauling those in turn 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah, we are. All the suites that are there today will all be completely redone. We're building a brand new club there that'll be able to host 300 fans, which will be anchored by a really terrific view. There's an outdoor patio, so the beautiful weather here in Phoenix, you can take that in, all from about 6 stories above the racetrack. So it's an incredible location, great food, great beverage. And then for our corporate friends, we have about 56 new suites that'll be going in. And some of those will be completed this fall, the rest by the following fall. And by November of 2018, this entire project will be completed. So we're on a fast track. Things are moving quickly. We've already broken ground, and fans that are coming either tomorrow for the Phoenix Grand Prix or later in the year, we're going to start to see visible signs of construction.
Ryan Sperber, the track president at Phoenix Raceway, joins me. Again, you just hit on something I was going to ask you about the timeline. November 2018, correct, is when this place is going to be open for business with all of the renovations completed?
We will have all the amenities up and running November of 2018. So it's going to be a great end of the 2018 and an awesome beginning for the 2019 season.
We appreciate your hospitality as always. We like the weather as well. It's a little bit cooler than we're used to out here, but thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Mark, that's Brian Sperber, the president here at Phoenix Raceway.
Yeah, we want to thank them. We met with them earlier today. They brought the whole team together and really went into detail, all that went into the planning process and the construction phase and everything else. We appreciate Brian Sperber's access, certainly, and all of the information he shared with us today. Appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about it here this afternoon and this evening. About 38 minutes remaining in this session. It's Dixon, Hildebrand, Alosian, Andretti, and Hinch, your top 5. Power, Bourdais, Newgarden, Castroneves, and Carpenter, the top 10. 11th, Pagenaud. 12th, Kanaan. 13th, Munoz. 14th, Sato. 15th, Rahal. 16th, Hunter Ray. 17th, Rossi. 18th, Kimmel. 19th, Jones. Connor Daly is 20th. Max Chilton is 21st. Dixon's speed, by the way, 186.687 miles per hour. Back to pit road and Jake Query.
Marco Andretti just pulled his number 27 machine in right now. 4th, as you just mentioned, Mark. And new sponsor on the side of that 27 machine, it's Oberto Beef Jerky. And if you've ever, of course, in my case, every time I road trip, beef jerky is the ultimate road trip companion. Mark Falcone is the vice president of sales for Oberto. I know that you guys have been involved with Andretti Autosport in terms of the rally car, but maiden voyage in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We're having a great time.
Okay, let's talk first and foremost just about your initial impressions, because you were telling me you've watched a lot of forms of racing, in particular with Oberto Beef Jerky, but the first time to see the IndyCars this up close, what are your impressions?
The technology is unbelievable. The teamwork that goes on in the pits and in where the cars are kept is very different, and it's fun to see.
Okay, let me ask you just in terms of being on the car. Obviously, you've got a great team in Marco Andretti's team with Andretti Autosport. The name, it goes without saying that there carries some cachet there. But for Oberto, with the sponsorship, either in the rally cars, but now in this one-off for Indy cars, what are the expectations for you in terms of how it connects with your brand in IndyCar?
Yeah, the partnership that we've got with Andretti Racing, and we also partnered with Circle K, both in the rally car and in the IndyCar for this race. It's helped get our brand out there. We're the all-natural beef jerky. The shoppers that are purchasing our products are the race fans that are here, and Circle K is one of the largest C-store chains in the country, and the race here in Arizona, the franchise that they've got and the stores in Arizona was a great fit and a perfect partnership for us to get our jerky in the hands of our shoppers.
You guys are based in the Pacific Northwest, of course, but a national brand here, so obviously anybody listening across the U.S. is going to be able to go in and get that Oberto, right?
Absolutely. We're a national brand. We're in all convenience stores across the country. We're in the grocery channel, so your local supermarkets will have it, Walmart, Target, all the drug channels, so we are national across the country.
Mark Falcone is the Vice President of Sales for Oberto Beef Jerky. We're talking about the sponsorship with Marco Andretti. All right, I'm going to put on my marketing hat here. You ready? I always get beef jerky when I do a road trip. Every time. It's the ultimate car companion, which is good for racing, right? It's a natural fit. But I think that means, obviously right now, you guys are just with this one race at Phoenix, only natural that you fit in a road course, right? Because when you're on the road, what's better than beef jerky, right?
Absolutely. It's all natural. It's better for you. And we're the only all-natural beef jerky out there. And we've got other products like the new Oberto Trail Mix that you can find, which is a combination of trail mix and jerky. And so that's the only one out on the market. So there's all kinds of products from Oberto to meet your traveling needs.
Are there chances that we're going to see you on a car beyond this race?
I hope so, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'll track you down when the time comes, all right?
Thank you.
All right, Mark Falcone again, Oberto, beef jerky, Marco Andretti's car. Got tied up there because I looked over and they were pulling it off the pit road. So with just about 30 minutes left in this session, looks like they found what they need. He's inside the top 5 guys in that machine for Andretti Autosport.
Thank you, Jake. I want to thank them for their sponsorships and their contributions to the sport, and happy to give them an opportunity to talk a little bit about their product and their commitment. As Jake said, about 30 minutes. 34, in fact, remaining. Dixon, Hildebrand, Alotion, the aforementioned Marco Andretti, and James Hinchcliffe, your top 5 as preparations continue here at Phoenix International Raceway for tomorrow night's race.
Hi, I'm Mario Andretti. To promote the Firehawk Indy 500 tire, Firestone asked me to describe what it feels like to win the world's biggest race on Firestone tires. I would say it feels like vroom, 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 ba-dum, vroom, 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 boom, 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 boom. And that's pretty much it.
Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Phoenix International Raceway as preparations continue for the Desert Diamond West Valley Phoenix Grand Prix as Scott Dixon continues the fast way around, 186.687 miles per hour. We see the number 27 machine being wheeled back by the folks at Andretti Autosport to the paddock. We've seen Ed Carpenter out of the race car walk back to the garage area, then come back to pit road with a headset on. So, Zach, we can only assume that I think that they've run through the checklist now with just 30 minutes remaining in the session, and maybe they're content with what they have and ready to go qualifying.
I think so. I mean, we look at guys like, Hildebrand. As far as an oval, it's comes down to your car, right? And being with the team with Carpenter and Hildebrand, I think we see what the car is capable of, so that's got to make them feel a little more confident. But I think they're still working out some gremlins with Ed Carpenter's car as well, Mark.
Yeah, sure. They had some issues with that car, but he was up to 10th quick, has now dropped back to 11th quick, so they're working on that car, getting ready to go qualifying. Back to pit road, Nick Yeoman.
I'll tell you what, Mark, if you're a fan of the Honda camp, I think you've got to be awful encouraged by this practice session. Last year, let's face it, it was an uphill struggle, uphill battle for the entire Honda teams when they came to Phoenix International Raceway. When it all shook out at the end of the day, Chevrolet claimed quite a few of the top spots, 8 of the top 9 at the end of the day, 10 of the top 12 at the end of the Phoenix Grand Prix here last year. So far, Honda, they're doing pretty well. They've got 5 drivers in the top 6 with guys like Dixon, Alotion, Andretti, Hinchcliffe, so that's multiple different teams represented as well. So, again, Mark, this was one of those racetracks tracks where I wasn't quite sure if Honda made as big of a stride as they showed on some of the road and street circuits. But so far, so good for the Honda boys who have stepped it up. Everyone chasing after Honda's driver Scott Dixon right now at the top of the charts.
We mentioned the event last night, the salute to legends and all of the folks that were on hand, and of course many of our media brethren there, including the guy who joins us in the broadcast booth now, Bruce Martin. And Bruce, I jokingly said, did you get that suit back in time to get your deposit back that you were wearing last night? And you were quick to let me know that you in fact own 7 suits, which I was surprised. I'm not saying you dressed down or anything, but it was just strange seeing you in a suit. I felt underdressed after seeing you in your suit.
7 suits, but unfortunately that's been 20 pounds ago. Only one of them really fit anymore.
And it wasn't that one.
Exactly. The buttons on there look like they're getting ready to pop like an old A.J. Foyt pop-off valve during Indy 500 qualifications.
Let's talk about that event last night. It was an amazing event, and for me personally, as a guy who's watched this for a long, long time, I can think of no one better to have emceed that than one of the classiest people to ever put on a headset and hold a microphone, the legendary Gary Gerould.
Gary Gerould is a class act. He's been a class act back in the days when he did pit reporting on ABC for the old kart series and the Indianapolis 500. I've also known Gary Gerould very well from his days of being voice of the Sacramento Kings. Yeah. I used to cover the original Charlotte Hornets, the team that is now located in New Orleans. There's another Charlotte Hornets that's in Charlotte. They began as the Bobcats, however. Gary Gerould is always one of these guys that you could always sit down and have a great conversation with. Ultimate in class. He always asks you how you're doing, and rather than tell you what he's doing, he's just a very top-notch guy, and I think that a lot of broadcasting people should really look in to see how Gary Gerould has carried himself throughout his career.
I wonder if someone last night, either watching online or was there, there've been a lot of books done recently on different aspects of motorsports and different stories, and quite frankly, I'm sure there were a lot of people that weren't aware of just how far back this connection goes between Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan. I think it has the makings of a great story.
It definitely does, and I believe that Michael Knight of the Arizona Republic chronicled that in a story that he wrote in last Sunday's Arizona Republic. When you think that Tony Kanaan's father died, and then he was taken in by Rubens Barrichello when he was a teenager, and they got to be boyhood friends with Helio Castroneves, that really is quite a collection of motorsports talent there, what they've been able to accomplish. Mm-hmm. But yet they've had their problems. They had a 3-year period there beginning in 2006 where they didn't speak to each other. Helio was going for the championship that year. He thought that Tony Kanaan raced him a little bit too hard, too difficult at the last race at Chicagoland. Maybe he thought Tony should have gotten out of the way, kind of help Helio advance toward a championship. Helio didn't win a championship that day, and they were so mad at each other after that for nearly 3 years they did not speak. And then one day they just started talking to each other like it had never happened. But it is still a subject that they don't really like to talk about.
A couple of Indy Lights guys went through a similar scenario a couple of years ago during their stint, I think. I'm looking at one of them right now, am I not?
Yeah, me and my good buddy Sage Karam. But, I think that's anybody that spends too much time together. Sage and I, we were like, inseparable for the first 3 years of our career, and then we had that little trouble, I guess you would say. But now we're to the point that still back to being good friends, just don't see each other that much.
If I remember right, as you told me, it wasn't one of them racing deals, and we'll leave it at that. But,
yeah, we don't need to go
Bruce,
into details.
Let's talk a little bit about the season and where we stand to this point. How about the year that Dale Coyne Racing has put together with Sebastian Bourdais? And Ed Jones did not have a good weekend in Barber, but prior to that kid had 2 top 10 finishes.
Well, as I said last week at Barber, what's beautiful about Dale Coyne Racing is if you took a lot of the talent that they've got on their engineering staff and in their crew, individually, if they went to work for one of the big teams, the Andretti Autosports, Team Penske, Chip Ganassi Racing, they could probably make a lot more money. I was speaking to engineer Craig Hampson out here on Thursday, and because a lot of them live in the Chicagoland area and they used to work for Newman Haas, he says Dale got the hometown discount. But it just goes to show that the level of commitment and professionalism that exists at Dale Coyne Racing and how badly these guys, deep down, they're racers. And what they're getting to do right now is they're getting much more satisfaction out of seeing what a small team can accomplish against the big teams that a lot of these bigger teams that are expected to do this every race have been doing. And that's the beautiful story about Dale Coyne Racing this year.
26 minutes remaining in this 2-hour session, and all of a sudden we have a driver at the top, a new driver, P1, Mikel Lotion, at a speed of 188.248. Again, 188.248. Another one of those teams, Bruce. Mikel Lotion drives for him. That's Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports stable. Huge win a couple of weeks ago at Long Beach for Hinch.
And the beautiful thing about that is they have been fast everywhere that they have been since then. And with the Speedway coming up, James Hinchcliffe started on the pole for the 100th Indianapolis 500. Michaela Lotion, with another year of experience at the Speedway, has been fast. You just can't walk into that track on race day and think that the winner's going to come out of one of the three big teams. These teams like Dale Coyne Racing and Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports and Ray Hall, they are equally capable, if the brakes fall their way, of winning the 101st Indianapolis 500.
So let's talk about, of course, a lot of activity surrounding Fernando Alonso at Barber Motorsports Park after the announcement was made a week before. We had Jim Aiello from the Indianapolis Star in here, and we talked to a couple of other of our motorsports media brethren. Pretty impressive from start to finish the way that whole process was handled on his visit to Barber Motorsports Park.
And I think that he really liked what he saw. One of the things that he really liked is just the camaraderie level that you experience in the IndyCar paddock, which is something that he admits. He says in Formula One, there are drivers that are upset about everything. And to come over here and see so many people that want to help him out is just a completely unusual experience for a driver who has been in the Formula One mindset for as long as he has been. I think he's really going to enjoy his month of May, probably as much, if not more, than Kurt Busch did when he was over here a couple of years ago from NASCAR.
Are you surprised at the international response that this has gotten?
Not at all, because Fernando Alonso is our generation's type of name that Jim Clark and Graham Hill was 50 years ago, and Jochen Rindt and Denny Hulme and people like that are coming over here. It's great to see these international names get a chance to run in the world's greatest race. And it really does harken back to what racing was like in the so-called golden age of the Indy 500, which began in maybe the mid-'60s and went on for 30 years after that. I believe we're now seeing a second golden age beginning for the Indianapolis 500.
And, you know, it was interesting. We talked earlier in this session, you know, once upon a time, this was kind of like the measuring stick, maybe for momentum as much as anything, in terms of it being, you know, the oval before the Indianapolis 500. But we caught up with Tim Cindric earlier, and he said he didn't know anymore if that much really transferred from Phoenix to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Plus, you had the added caveat now of having a race in between those two races on the road course of the Speedway.
Although when they were a kart team, and they were going to return to Indianapolis in 2001, they ran at Phoenix.
With Gilles. Yeah,
they ran
Gilles
at Phoenix
Elio.
with Gilles and Elio, and the day didn't end too well for Gilles that day. He ended up in the turn one wall down there with a pretty heavy hit. But it was a very good experience for the crew to understand how the race car works in race conditions. There's a lot of things that these teams and drivers and crews are going to learn tomorrow night. Pit stops, the pace of the race, a lot of your tire conservation and everything that may come into play to a degree once they start practice on the oval at Indianapolis.
Interesting format change for these ovals, Bruce. This 2-hour practice session, then a relatively short break before we go qualifying, and then we race tomorrow. Pretty compact 2-day schedule.
I think that gives the fans reason to come out. They see a lot of action. They see a lot of on-track action. There's not going to be a long break between practice and qualifications, which means the fans, you know, they'll go out, get something to eat, come back, look, you know, to their grandstands, watch what's going to go on in qualifications, and then come back and see the race. I like this format because it gives you more action in a more compressed period of time.
Well, Bruce, we've got some folks from IndyCar Nation we need to get in here before we close out the show with about 20 minutes left. So before we let you go again, remind the folks where they can find your work and all the various outlets that you're working for.
Well, of course, there's the Verizon IndyCar app, 5 exclusive stories a week on that, plus 2 of the Honda IndyCar reports end up being podcast on the Verizon IndyCar mobile app. There's also Auto Week. I do many things for Auto Week, AutoWeek.com, Auto Week Magazine, Speed Sport Magazine, and of course, Patrick Steffen made sure that I told everybody that I do work for him at times, Trackside Online, so be sure to subscribe to that.
Good stuff as always, Bruce. We'll see you in the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I'll be there.
That's Bruce Martin, our guest, and interesting to see Mikhail Aloshin at the top of timing and scoring, Zach.
Well, I got to spend some time with Mikhail, I think it was on Tuesday, for the 33-day out party of the Indianapolis 500. So, he was talking to Gabby and I and giving us a little trouble for being so young because he's closing in on his 30th birthday. But one thing he did say is every year he's gotten to Indy, he's qualified higher and higher. And this year, with Hinch's success last year, he thinks he can be right up front. And this might be a preview of what's to come.
Let's get more on that from Pit Road. Nick Gilman.
Yeah, that 188 lap, I think, caught a lot of people's attention down here. Nick Snyder is the strategist for Mikhail Aloshin. How happy are you guys with the speed you found here at the end of practice?
I'm pretty happy so far. Just kind of working our way through it. I think a lot of guys are trying to go out and do Q-sits now, so I think you'll see a lot of times just dropping. Conditions are pretty tricky. It's pretty dusty around here, so just trying to make the most of it. But
what has Mikhail said about the wind? Because I think that seems like it's one of the biggest issues
it's actually
today.
not horrible. The way the grandstands are, it's kind of shielded at 1 and 2, so it's not a huge deal at the moment. If it changes direction at all, it'll get way worse.
All right, well, keep an eye on Mikhail Aloshin. That's Nick Snyder, the strategist for that number 7, that Russian driver. And it'll be interesting to watch, Mark. He's anticipating a lot of drivers maybe putting some big laps down as we get closer and closer to qualifying conditions. This is the time to trim out, lay it back a little bit, and just as I say it, Mark, looks like we've got another P1 change at the top as our winner from Barber is going P1.
Yep, staying hot. Joseph Newgarden, a lap of 188.831. We're getting comfortable. Track's rubbering in, Zach. We're getting close to qualifying conditions. So for Joseph Newgarden, now Simon Pagenaud's P2. That's good news.
We're going to start seeing guys' speeds. This is the last 19 minutes before they have to prove where they qualify, so now's the time. But as Nick was saying, we got kind of a sandstorm building in a little bit away from the track, so that's going to be carrying a lot of dust and grime to the track, so it might be getting slicker too, Mark.
And as we say, Joseph Newgarden goes P1. His time there is short-lived. He's now been leapfrogged by his teammate Simon Pagenaud with a speed of 189.335. Well, I've always maintained this is one of the most fan-friendly forms of sports anywhere in the country. That fans can come here and really get access that you can't get in the traditional stick and ball sports or any other sport for that matter. One of the groups that helps ensure that the fans have a great experience here is IndyCar Nation. The Senior Director of Marketing is Ivan Cropper. Ivan, first of all, welcome to the broadcast booth.
Thanks for having me up here. This is fantastic. If I knew you had this view, I would have come up a long time ago.
Well, you're welcome anytime. This certainly better not be the last time we see you up at the booth. So tell us a little bit about the IndyCar Nation, what it's all about.
Well, as you just said, access to our drivers and to the sport is kind of one of the hallmarks of IndyCar. And here at the Verizon IndyCar Series, we love to get IndyCar Nation, which is our best fans, as close to the sport as we possibly can. And thankfully, you've been a part of that in the past, so thank you for your help.
Glad to do it.
Making sure that they get an insider's look at the sport. You've given them insights about drivers, about tracks, about cars, and about what they're going to see on the track week in, week out. And for you to do that on almost a one-to-one experience for them is just fantastic. And we like to do that not just with you, also with the drivers. Zach is going to be running at the Indy 500 later on this year in the month of May, which we all know is right around the corner. So he'll possibly get some experience chatting with our IndyCar Nation and our fans and getting to see what fantastic fans we have. And the best part is these fans know exactly who Zach is. They've followed him through his lights progression and are going to be excited to see him hit the track in Indianapolis later on.
Did I see someone's getting a memorable experience? One of your Fan Nation folks going to get to wave the green flag for qualifying tonight?
They are, and that's one of the amazing benefits of being part of IndyCar Nation. Not only do you get to wave the green flag during one of our practices later on, but qualifying. I mean, how many fans get that opportunity to wave the green flag in any motorsport during qualifying? And one of our amazing fans are going to be able to do that. They also get tours of the paddock. Our friends at Firestone and Verizon have given them access like never before. You can either sit pit side in Verizon's pit view or get a tour of how these tires are actually put together to run on this oval or at the Super Speedway in Indianapolis from our friends at Firestone.
We had Brian Sperber on earlier talking about the renovations that they're undergoing here at Phoenix International. One of the things that he stressed upon was the development of their fan village down where the new grandstands are. I can remember a time going back to 1996. A fan village didn't exist. And over the past few years, you've continued to work that massage that, and it's all not just about entertainment. It's about an entertainment experience now.
It is. And, our partners have been relentless in allowing our fans to get closer and closer to the sport. The Fan Village is part of that. You go outside and you get to get Firestone tattoos. You get to meet the Firehawk. As you know, we have our driver autograph sessions. And if you're part of IndyCar Nation, just like if you're going to an amusement park, you get the Fast Pass and you get to cut the line. And you've seen the lines at autograph sessions.
Yes.
They're not small. So being able to have that Fast Pass, get to the front of the line, get through that line, and get photos with these drivers is always a fantastic experience. We always look to grow that Fan Village experience. And that is something that we will continue to try and do as we move forward with IndyCar Nation.
We've got an update real quickly. We're going to step away. Let's check in with Jake Query. Jake, an update on Ed Carpenter's situation?
Real quick, just wanted to update what the situation is back here in the paddock area for that number 20 machine, Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka, Ed Carpenter's car. They have taken the engine out. They have not done an engine replacement, but it looks like they're going to have to replace the fuel cell. And based on that, they have everything right now. And keep in mind, the clock is ticking, guys, because we're just about 135 minutes away from having to qualify. So they're going to have to put that car back together quickly. They are looking over every single inch of it to find out the problem, but it looks like it might have been a fuel cell issue. But right now, that car is in several pieces right now back here in the paddock area.
Senior Director of Marketing for IndyCar Nation, Ivan Cropper, joins us. And Ivan, I guess the most important thing for those that aren't already a member, how do they go about becoming one?
Well, you can log on to either IndyCar.com or IndyCarNation.com. And right on the homepage is going to be an opportunity for you to find out which membership level. Another part of customization is you get to pick the level at which you want to be a member. You can go all in and be a legend, or you can be a rookie. And there, as we know, there are people who are just getting into the sport. Maybe the rookie level is best for you, but if you really want to get close to the action, I'd go straight for the legend level. It allows you the opportunity to get up close and personal. I think I can see behind Jake down there, there are a couple of our IndyCar Nation members looking over the wall trying to see what's going on with Ed Carpenter's car as well.
Well, I have told them before in the tours that I've done for various entities, let's face it, this is akin to going down for batting practice at Yankee Stadium prior to a baseball game. It'd be like being down there for pregame at an NFL stadium or going out being able to shoot layups with your favorite NBA basketball team. You can't do any of those things. A fan can't, but you can do that at almost any IndyCar venue.
You can do that here, not just for practice. And, when we go racing tomorrow night, there are going to be a lot of fans who are part of IndyCar Nation. They're going to be right down there in the pits watching these guys take off and try to win tomorrow night here in Phoenix. So proximity, it's all about getting inside of the sport, getting a deeper appreciation, not only for what the drivers do, but for what the mechanics, the pit crew does, and the folks who actually put these races together week in, week out, understanding what they do to bring this sport to you week in, week out. It's a fantastic time, and we absolutely love it.
Well, we're proud of our association. I had a great time at Long Beach visiting with some of your members in the paddock area. They were great folks, and we know they're fans of the radio network and the IndyCar Series. Thanks for all you do. Keep up the good work. Let's have you back again.
Thank you so much for having me up here. I appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
When you hit the track in Indianapolis next
I think it's 17 days from now, so we're counting.
Not that he's keeping track. He probably has it down to hours and minutes and impressed him. So.
Has Doug Bowles called him and given him the countdown? Doug knows to the second when it's about to start. So we're looking forward to it.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you.
I'm Robert, our guest from IndyCar Nation. We appreciate their folks and all of the hard work that they do. So Zach J.R. Hildebrand says, okay, enough with this Penske stuff. He goes right back to the top of the timing and scoring.
Yeah, Hildebrand's P1 at a 190.209, and we got Powers sneaking up to second at a 189.829, but it's still, a comfortable 0.4 of a mile an hour for JR right now. I think as we get to the final 11 minutes here, we're going to see a lot more people take a stab at it. But I think the Carpenter guys are going to be really happy, at least Hildebrand, while they're trying to fix that problem for Ed.
Yeah, and then we're seeing a couple of bow ties sprinkled in there now. I mean, Honda had some dominance at the top of timing and scoring, but right now we go Chevy, Honda. Then we go Chevy, Honda. So there are a couple of fast cars there for Chevrolet.
Not that I'm biased or anything for the month of May, but it's good to see the bow ties up top. But, I think we're just seeing, we keep talking about dominance from one side or another, but it definitely looks very evened out right now.
Pit road to Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, and that one Honda that leads the bunch is our points leader, Sebastian Bourdais. So, I think a lot of fans kind of looked at Sebastian Bourdais as our points leader after 3 races on 3 road courses and wondered, hey, can that Dale Coyne Honda group, can they back it up and show the speed on the ovals? You talk to the guys that drove for Dale Coyne a year ago, that's where they struggled, was on these ovals. That's pretty promising, Mark, to see Sebastian Bourdais find some speed. Ed Jones struggling a little bit down in 17th at just 182 miles per hour, but leading the Honda charge right now is Sebastian Bourdais in 3rd. That is awful promising for our points leader in that Dale Coyne Honda group.
And I think we stressed this before, but it just goes down to the importance of car setup here. I mean, all these drivers are great, and that's why, you can only do so much if you have a poor car. The oval is the extreme of that, but it doesn't matter if it's road course or street course. You have to have a good car under you, and with Bourdais liking who he's got with you, his engineer that he has past relationships with, that's only going to make him stronger on every aspect that we go to. So I think this is just another opportunity for them to show how well they're gelling together.
I do want to give you an idea of the qualifying order. Many of you have been posting on Twitter. We waited for it. We have it, and we want to give it to you now. Charlie Kimball will roll off first. Will Power will qualify second. Then Graham Rahal, Ed Carpenter, Simon Pagenaud. Rolling off sixth will be Sato, Aloshin, then Andretti. Elio Castroneves and Ryan Hunter-Reay will qualify 10th. Then Hinch, Chilton, Dixon, Newgarden. 15th will be Alexander Rossi. Then Hildebrand, Munoz, Connor Daly, Ed Jones, Sebastian Bourdais, and Tony Kanaan. That's your qualifying order as we get set to go qualifying. If you didn't get that, of course, you can always find it on IndyCar.com. They post that information there regularly, or certainly follow them on Twitter. We'll get it posted as well. Speaking of qualifying, we'll get a little bit of a break. And at 7:55 Pacific time, 10:55 Eastern. You can join us at all the usual outlets as we get set to go qualifying before race day tomorrow. Your thoughts and impressions of this format, how you feel about it, how condensed it is, a 2-day show here.
Well, I think, as we talked earlier, it's better for the fans because it just compresses everything, so there's a lot of action, so there's not a lot of boredom at the racetrack, and I think, that's a benefit for them. As the drivers, luckily they had a test day before they came here, so they didn't come here with a completely new setup they're trying to change. So I think 2 hour, one 2-hour session is difficult if something happens. If you wad up a car, you have no practice at all, and then it's right into qualifying. So that could be a double whammy for you. But as far as the fans, and I think that's the most important thing, I think this is a smart move, Mark.
So again, we continue to jumble up at the top. Elio Castroneves now with a top speed of 190.844. So now Zach Chevrolets have the top 3. Elio Castroneves at 198.44. Hildebrand 192.09. Will Power at 189.829. Then Bourdais, then Dixon. Pagenaud is 6th quick. Kanaan, Newgarden, Aloshin, and Kimball the top 10. Let's give you the rest of the field. Ryan Hunter-Reay is 11th quick. Graham Rahal is 12th quick. Then James Hinchcliffe, Max Chilton, and Carlos Munoz. Marco Andretti, 16th quick. 17th quick, Alexander Rossi. 18th quick, the rookie Ed Jones. Connor Daly is 19th quick. And Ed Carpenter with some mechanical issues. Jake has given us a couple of updates on where they stand. He was 20th quick and 21st quick, Takuma Sato.
I think, Sato was another one of those guys. I had a big hit here in testing a month or so ago whenever we were back here. So maybe he's just trying to work up to speed as well. But I think one thing we have to remember, last year it was kind of a Chevy-dominated race. And I think part of that just came from Chevy's aero kit was a little more comfortable in traffic and dirty air. At least they were able to use more of it as we got into race conditions. So maybe that's something that we're going to see again, but we're not really going to get to know that until we get to race conditions tomorrow.
I don't know that I have ever seen a situation at a racetrack where the winds have been this stout and this sustained for this period of time. And Zach, I think the thing that's making it tough for these cars and these drivers and engineers in terms of setup is that every time we look up at the scoring pylon in the middle of the infield, those flags have changed direction.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's what makes it tough for a driver, because you're trying to give consistent feedback. But if the wind is changing every lap, it's hard to be consistent and figure out what the car is actually doing itself and what the wind's making it do. So, that's something they're definitely going to have to keep in mind so they don't jump to conclusions too quickly.
Let's get more on that from Nick Yeoman.
And down here on pit lane, you can feel it with the wind picking up. The temperature has dropped significantly from what we saw a couple hours ago at the beginning of the practice. We saw the ambient temperature up around 85, 86 degrees. Now it's dipped down into the high 70s, down to 78 degrees as of right now. So these conditions have thrown a bit of a curveball for these teams. But again, Mark, you can just feel it. Wind blowing around, and it's changed quite a bit. At the beginning of the practice, it was at the driver's back when they were heading down the back straightaway. Now, as those flags blow on the timing and scoring pylon in the middle of the infield, that wind has shifted, and it's actually blowing towards their face coming out of turn number 2. So it's just wreaking havoc for these engineers and strategists trying to fine-tune where every tenth in this sport matters. It's been awful difficult for these guys. Those speeds are picking up, but I'm sure it's been awful challenging for these guys to dial in these race cars.
You guys keep your head on a swivel down there, because there's just as much activity on the other side of the pit wall as there is on the pit road side. We just saw Marco's crew rush out from the paddock, and as they were headed up toward their pit box, lo and behold, here comes the 18 of Sebastian Bourdais and the 7 of Mikel Voloshin. They're being towed by their pit carts in the opposite direction. They had a tight squeeze there just past the media center, but Zach, clearly Marco's crew been doing a lot to that race car back in the paddock, and they see with about 4.5 minutes left, whatever they did to that car, they want to slap some Firestones on it, get it out there, get a couple of laps in, and see if they've solved any issues.
Well, obviously it's something big because they want to get it tried, and you don't want to be figuring out things, whether it's a mechanical, electrical issue, or a big setup change when we go to qualify here, because the payback that you have to do if you make a big mistake here is extremely high, just because it is such a fast track. I mean, we see Newgarden in P1 with a 192.1 lap. I mean, that's 8 mile an hour away from 200 miles an hour around here averaging.
We thought with Brian Herta moving to that pit box, he qualified 15th, was despondent about that, quite frankly, at St. Petersburg. But he brought it home 7th, and we thought, okay, things are going in the right direction. 20th place finish at Long Beach. Again, issues not of his doing. All 4 cars that day, in fact, fell out of the race. And then he finished no better than 21st after early electrical issues at Barber. More on Marco Andretti from Jay Query.
Marco Andretti had an electrical issue here, and I thought earlier, to be honest with you guys, because he laid down a pretty good lap when they took him out with about 35 minutes to go in this session, but it was an electrical issue they had. They took the car back, took a once over on that 27 machine. They think they got it worked out. They brought him in. He just actually, for a split second, had a sputter in the stall, in the pit stall, but I think that was actually just waiting for the clearance to get out. So they're hoping they got that problem taken care of. Keep in mind, it's just been a bugaboo of issues between Ryan Hunter-Reay and Marco Andretti, really at no fault of theirs, just those electrical gremlins. I know that we keep using that word over and over, but that right now is the scenario with Marco Andretti. And Mark, you throw in the fact now it's going to be even more challenging because we have a yellow on track now for, I believe, a track inspection or debris, and that is going to deny Marco Andretti the opportunity perhaps to try to lay down and see what can happen in the final 3 minutes of this session to lay down a good lap.
And Zach Veach, as we look out the window here, now the sand is really, and the dirt really starting to play a factor. The wind's picked it up, and it has hauled it into Phoenix International Raceway.
Man, it's switched in a matter of 45 seconds here. We saw a car on the back straight, and you couldn't even really make out what it was. It was Marco Andretti, as we see in pit lane now, but I mean, it was just a blur, and all you could see really was the numbers on the roll hoop. So we're getting a lot of sand in the air. Hopefully this clears out quickly before qualifying, but we got to think, too, if this is depositing a lot of sand onto the track, you don't want to be in Charlie Kimball's spot of being that first car to qualify, because you have no idea what you're going to expect when you get out there.
And again, now 2 minutes left in this session, and Zach, we look out our window here high atop the start-finish line, and some teams have said, yeah, I think we're going to pack it in and start getting that qualifying trim on the car.
Oh, for sure. If this sand was snow, we'd be in a blizzard right now, it seems like, Mark.
Yeah, well, Rossi is headed back, and Chilton is headed back. So tell us, but we talked to Davey Hamilton, our driver analyst, last weekend a little bit about it. So tell us what's going to be different in terms of the setup. What are they going to do to this car now that practice is complete and they're getting ready for qualifying trim as the checker is now flying on this session?
Well, I think a lot of the guys would have ran their qual trim here the last couple laps just so they could understand what they're going to have before qualifying. So if anything, they might just trim it out a little bit more when we go to qualify.
Okay, explain to people that may not know what you mean by trimming it out.
And that's just taking the downforce away. So we're going to reduce downforce, so the car is going to be a little harder to drive, a little more likely to crash because you've taken that grip away, but you're going to have less drag, which allows the car to go faster in a straight line. So you're giving up grip for speed as long as you can hang on for a couple laps, Mark. And then once we get back to race time, we're going to put that downforce back in so we have all that grip once we find ourselves in race conditions.
And then again, what changes will they make to the car from qualifying to race trim?
And a lot of that's just maybe softening the car up a little bit more to get that mechanical grip. But, just talking with the Ed Carpenter guys, I think it just comes down to a lot of aerodynamics here of just trying to, turn the wings up to create more downforce, which in return is more grip for the cooler conditions that we're going to have come tomorrow night.
I, was out here for several years, starting in '96, and we've been out here in a lot of different conditions, and to be honest with you, I don't remember much like this for sure. Most of the activity right now by drivers consists of guys headed back to the paddock on their scooters as we ended this session.
It looks like something out of an Indiana Jones movie, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think you talked about it. You alluded to it. I mean, the track dirties up enough with the rubber and just dirt and the way you kick it up when you run around the race course, but you've got the added element of this sand, and that's going to be hard on those Firestones.
Well, one thing to think about, we always have that at Fontana, right? The cars get sandblasted there, and we can't even see the sand there in the air, so I can only imagine what this is going to go.
Let's check in with Nick Yeoman.
All right, let's take a look at the top of the scoring pylon. It is Joseph Newgarden, who is P1 when it's all said and done. You ever seen the movie Mad Max?
I have.
With the sand blowing in over here? It's kind of...
Yeah, the caution for dust storm was a first for me. I've never heard that in a race car. So we're not in Bahrain, this isn't F1. But I get, it's Phoenix, right? We're in the desert, so you're going to get that. It's been windy. I mean, people at home that aren't here, it's blowing. You look at the flags on top of the grandstand, it's blowing pretty good and moving the car around. So it picked up there at the end, too, with the wind, so it made it tough. But, that's all good. If you're happy when it's windy like that and it dies down, then you should be more secure when the wind goes away.
That's what I was going to ask you, because you're fastest in that practice session, but I know you trim these cars out and you're looking for every 10th, every 100th. How much is that wind going to factor into qualifying here in a couple hours?
Well, I mean, it just depends on what it does, right? It does factor in, like you said. How much depends on how windy it is. If it's not windy, I don't think it'll factor in much. But if it's windy, it plays a part. I mean, I think it has the ability to throw people off in a run. So you really got to be on top of the car and understand what it's going to do. I got loose on the out lap on my qual run in 3-4 just because it gusts. And, it feels like you're going to wreck. But you just got to stay on top of the thing. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we're going to try and chase the wind and chase the temperature as it dies off here. I've never qualified this late at night, so it'd be different for us on the 2-car with Team Penske, but I feel good about it. I think the home car's fast, so we just got to make sure not to make a mistake, and we should be up there.
Appreciate it. The winner at Barber Motorsports Park, Joseph Newgarden, ends this practice session P1.
Again, your qualifying order for tonight's qualifying: Charlie Kimball, Will Power, Graham Rahal, Ed Carpenter, and Simon Pagenaud. Then Sato, Aloshin, Andretti, Castro Neves, and Ryan Hunter-Ray. Hinch, 11th, 12th, Chilton, 13th, or 12A, we should say. We're sorry. I can't mention the number 13. Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, and Rossi, the 15 qualifiers. 16th, Hildebrand. He was fast in this practice session. Munoz, Daly, Jones, Bourdais. 21st qualifier will be Tony Kanaan. We will have that for you. The usual outlet, 7:55 Pacific. That is 10:55 Eastern. We had a lot of guests up here over the last 2 hours. We thank them for taking time out of their busy afternoon and evening to impart their wisdom and their information, share their stories. We also want to thank Nick Yeoman and Jay Query for their outstanding coverage on pit road and the interviews they were able to glean. Rick Evans is our on-site engineer and producer. The director of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network and IndyCar Radio is Wally Levitt. For Zach Veach, I'm Mark James. So long for now from Phoenix International Raceway.
This is the Verizon.
Joins us in the booth. He's doing double, triple duty, driving two-seater. Also with the USAC Silver Crown Series. Pretty happy, Davey, after practice and qualifying today, because you out-qualified your son by 7 spots, I think, or 4 spots or
we
something.
did okay. Yeah, no, it's been a long time since the Silver Crown cars have been here, and a long time for me. I mean, like 18 years, I think, or something, since I've wheeled one of those things. So this track is just fantastic, though. So it's different than the last time I was here, but then again, it's somewhat the same. So we caught on pretty good, ended up third in qualifying. Now we'll see what happens for the 100-lapper tomorrow.
You know, we came here last year. We had some issues in turn 2. Knock wood. Been pretty uneventful so far. I mean, you know, a year under your belt, the data, testing here not too long ago. All of these things combined to kind of get these teams up to speed with the nuances of this racetrack.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the guys have the package figured out. And more importantly, like you said, Mark, the track, just how you drive this track, even though it's Phoenix, as we keep saying, it's the same character, but you do drive it a little bit different, and speeds are up. I mean, when you're going 190 mile an hour plus on a 1 mile oval, it's just almost insanity, really. I mean, how fast these cars are really getting around here. But everybody seems to have a good handle on it. And winds, by the way, Mark, a little calmer now, but earlier today in their practice session, the winds gusted probably 40 miles an hour, dirt flying all over the racetrack, and still no mishaps. So these guys, they haven't figured it out. They got their cars stuck down. Everybody's being smart right now.
Sustained in the 30s, and I think what posed a challenge for, you know, the guys handling the setup and the drivers as well, Davey, is about halfway through that practice session, we saw the flags on the top of the scoring pylon in the middle of the infield that changed directions all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, and that's a key as well, to where you're exactly right. It was a big tailwind going down into turn 3, so they had a big push, and then going down into 1, obviously a huge headwind. But then it's cross track, which is challenging sometimes, and so the gusty winds, the change of direction that it's going, the high mile per hour of wind is probably the biggest thing. But like I say, these guys, they made it through practice, which, you know, I have to say that was probably a nail-biter for some of those guys. We'll find out when we talk to these guys.
Yeah, we'll talk to some of them now. Let's start with Simon Pagenaud. Welcome in, Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, the defending series champion Simon Pagenaud is going to roll off 5th here for qualifying. We're waiting. How was your car during that 2-hour practice session, though, a couple hours ago?
Yeah, it was good. I had actually a good time in the car. We made some good improvements, and at the end we tried some qualifying runs, which was pretty exciting with the sandstorm. But overall, I thought Menard's car was pretty strong.
I compared it to the movie Mad Max. You've seen that one? Driving through the storm, and you were awful fast, though. I mean, the balance of the Team Penske Chevrolets, seems like last year especially, was really there.
Yeah, I think, you know, we've carried on the aero package. We have a different front wing this year compared to last year, which we think is better here in traffic. So the car's behaving really well. This package, you know, at this level of downforce, I think we have a little bit the upper end. But certainly Honda's made big strides on the engine. So, you know, it's going to be tight competition. I think we're going to have a great race tomorrow.
Final thing, start to your title defense. You haven't gone to victory lane yet this year, but boy, some really strong finishes there in the top 4 in all 3 races. How pleased are you with the Menards group and how well you guys have started 2017?
Yeah, I think it's a very different start of the season for sure this year. I would say it didn't smile as much. You know, last year was a dream start, but this year we're actually doing really well in the races. Qualifying, we had a couple issues. I mean, you know, penalties, one bad run, and that's it. But overall, I think we're there. The crew is doing a fantastic job in the pits. Strategy is awesome too. So, you know, as long as I'm driving well, we're going to be up there. It's just a thrill to be with these guys.
All right, have fun in qualifying. That's our defending Verizon IndyCar Series champ, Simon Pagenaud.
Yeah, Debbie, he talks about not getting off to the start to get off to last year. This time a year ago, he was reeling off 3 wins in a row. We come into this race, and again, just a couple of races under our belt, but still very, very, very tight, Davey. The top 5 in points are separated by just 15 points. And you know what? That may be the case throughout the year.
Yeah, no, I think so. And you got, you know, Bourdais leading this thing with a 1st, a 2nd, and I would think an 8th mark is where he's at. And he's barely leading these points. So that tells you right there how tight the competition is and how everybody – and Simon, as he said, you know, he's pulling off some good finishes, even though he did have a penalty and had to start last place at Long Beach, which was unfortunate. But he still came back to a really good finish, and he's collecting those points. And, by the way, he's our defending champion, so he does know how to win championships.
10 minutes out before we start qualifying. Perhaps we'll get the chance to hear from a few more drivers. Joseph Newgarden, 192-plus after the practice session. Davey, 192.108. You come off a win like he had at Barber Motorsports Park. When you're P1 after the practice session before qualifying, that's the kind of momentum you want to build going into the month of May or any time during the season.
And how about this? His 4th race with Roger Penske. So they caught a hold of this thing quick. They merged together very nicely, and 192 miles an hour around here is just amazing.
Yep, Michaela Lotion was a guy that Nick Yeoman had a pretty good session. He finished in the top 10 at 188.720.
Yeah, he showed quite a bit of speed in practice earlier today. Going to roll off 7th here for qualifying. How did that car feel after, I know, a 2-hour practice session? You guys had a lot that you could work on.
Yeah, I mean, the car was good through all the practice session. Obviously, it's a little bit different story up here in qualify, so we just need to understand very fast how the car going to be, because the wind is blowing a different way, there is less wind, so it's going to be just completely different story. But it's going to be the same for everyone, right? The only thing what I can say is that the guys who are going to finish it, they're going to be a little bit more lucky than the guys who are starting it, because it's going to cool down more and it'll be less wind. But, you know, we have what we have, we're going to take it, and I'm going to try to do the best for my team, because I think that we can have some good results this weekend.
Were you one of the guys that tested here a couple months ago, and how did the car feel, and how were the conditions, maybe similar or not so similar to what we feel right now? Because a lot of people down here like to have a jacket on, a little cool.
I mean, you know, like test is test, and race weekend is race weekend. It's a little bit different. Plus, we have other cars on the track today, so they put some different rubber, and that's a factor as well that you need to respect. But we will see. I mean, anyway, I hope that it's going to be more interesting race, because we're going to have more downforce. You know, overall, as you know, that there's different regulations in the series for this year. That can be also something what's going to change how it's going to look for the fans, and I hope it's going to be even better.
Have a good qualifying run.
Thank you.
That is Michaela Lotion, the Russian driver for Schmidt-Peterson Racing, Mark.
A lot of folks come together to make all of this happen. Beach Whiskey, Outback Steakhouse, qualifying show. We're happy to have with us from Sun Beach Whiskey, Jay Smoke Wallen, co-founder and CEO. Welcome to Phoenix International Raceway.
Glad to be here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your involvement. What is the attraction not only to Phoenix International Raceway, but the Verizon IndyCar Series?
Yeah, so I've grown up watching IndyCar. I live in Indianapolis, so I have Indy in my roots. But this track we think is amazing in the desert, and you know they just need a little water and they'd be a beach. So we thought we'd bring at least some whiskey.
So how long have you been out here? I mean, you say an Indiana native. How long have you been here?
I still live in Carmel, Indiana.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, but I'm out here quite often.
All right, very good. Well, you know, let's talk about it as we get ready for the Indianapolis 500. Your thoughts and impressions as we get ready for the 100 first. What do we do for an encore in terms of the 100th?
Oh, well, that's going to be really hard to beat. But I hear that sales are ahead of last year, and you know there's a lot of momentum.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your product.
Sure. So Beach Whiskey is whiskey reimagined. We're taking whiskey that if we put it in a barrel would turn into bourbon, but we're not aging it. We're filtering it and then adding natural coconut and natural cinnamon, putting it in sea glass bottles. Really, truly day drinkable whiskey.
Day drinkable whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an interesting. How long did it take to develop the concept and the product?
Well, it's been a couple years in the making. We launched last August in Nashville, Tennessee, and now we're in California and Florida and Arizona and Texas and soon to be in Indiana. So we're spreading out across the country.
And we need to look forward at retailers, obviously.
Absolutely.
But how about websites? I mean, that's the way to do business now, is it not? At least get the word out about your product.
Absolutely. No, we're very active in social media and promoting the brand, and we have over 72,000 fans on Facebook following Beach Whiskey, and it's 79% women, 34 and under, so it's a great demographic. I'm sure you'll agree.
Hold on just a second. Let's hear from a driver real quick. Nick Yeoman?
Yeah, let's hear from the winner of the 100th Indianapolis 500, Alexander Ross. He's going to go out qualifying a little bit later, 15th. Going to be the 15th car to go out there for qualifying. How was the car during practice? 2 hours, a lot of stuff you could work on, but was the balance there for qualifying?
The thing was, I mean, because we only have one practice, you're trying to focus on the race car as well as the qualifying car. So we did a couple of qual sims at the end, and it was okay, but it was a lot windier, a lot warmer. So I think everyone's kind of taking a stab in the dark at it. Fortunately, like you said, I go 15th, and I have 3 teammates in front of me that I can lean on for information.
I was going to say, how much do you? I mean, a lot of times I've seen those Andretti Autosport teammates jump on those scooters, head to the end, and try to get a little information. You going to lean on those guys?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's the way this team works, and it's a completely open door among all of us. So I'll definitely be talking to all of them and make my decision based on that.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good qualifying run. Alexander Rossi, again, he's one of the drivers that will go out towards the end of the qualifying order here at Phoenix.
Smoke Wallen is our guest, and again, the title sponsor of the qualifying show here at Phoenix International Raceway this evening. Is the hope is that obviously I think you're going to see tremendous results from your involvement in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Is it something that you hope to continue to do and maybe expand moving forward?
Absolutely. This was an opportunity that we thought we'd step in and test the waters, if you will. And
sure.
We worked with our partners at Outback to promote the race and get more people out here for the race tomorrow. All the Outbacks in Phoenix now, you can get beach whiskey.
Awesome.
Starting now, and we'll hopefully expand that partnership around the country.
And you mentioned again, let people know what states you're currently in retailers and how soon you expect to be expanding into other states.
Yeah, so you can get beach whiskey right now at Total Wine in Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, Washington, and Nevada. And soon we'll be in most of the rest of the country, but those were covered. And then we're in 72 Applebee's now. We'll be in 140 Outback shortly, and hopefully building on that success, rolling out around the country.
And again, if people want to find out more about the product, the history of it, what it's all about, give us some web addresses.
So it's just beachwhiskey.com. Real easy. Beach Whiskey on Facebook or The Beach Whiskey on Instagram.
Hey, thanks for your support. Congratulations. Job well done. Enjoy the race.
Thank you. Really glad to be here, and here's to a great race. Beach it.
Smoke Wallen, our guest. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
So, Davey Hamilton, the mindset of these drivers as we get set to go qualifying. It's been a while since we've been on an oval. I know some have tested here, but let's face it, that's a lot different than the conditions they're about to face.
Yeah, and another thing, when you qualify, I mean, you're taking it to the next level, right, Mark? I mean, you're going 100. You need to get 100% out of yourself and the car without going over that edge. And we've seen some crazy things qualifying. Hopefully everybody just gets through it. But, the goal is for these guys to be wide open around here, Mark. Wide open and the car free. And we've seen last year qualifying, we had a few issues with cars, turning around and getting into the wall. So hopefully we don't see that. But this is one of the most stressful times because this is the fastest they're going to go the entire weekend right here.
Well, as we mentioned, it's a 1 mile oval, and we've got a guy positioned down on the course to help us call this qualifying run. And he and I will be going back and forth calling action in the race tomorrow night. Right now, we can barely see him out our window as we look to the left up towards turn number 4. We say hello and good evening to Jay Query.
You could barely see me because I sat down for a second there, Mark. I'm not going to lie to you, but standing up now, and it's a wonderful vantage point. It is so nice to be back here in the Valley of the Sun, but, of course, that sun has gone down, and it brings out a crystal clear evening. You can see the moon as it basks over turn number 1 here, and then simply sit and watch beneath me what takes place. That's because I'm in turn number 4, but you can see this entire track as we're a minute away from qualifying, Mark, and this is as fun as any stop that we go because you and I just kind of volley it back and forth, but this will be my primary responsibility, handling this into the racetrack really in turns 3 and 4 just beneath me. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I absolutely look forward to it. It is a beautiful, beautiful part of the country, and it's been a wonderful day so far here today, and now excited to watch these Verizon IndyCar Series get back to an oval for the first time this season.
Davey, we just visited with Smoke Wallen from Sun Beach Whiskey, of course, the product, the title sponsor of qualifying, and Indiana guy, which I think is great. And we visited earlier, Jay Query, Alberto Beef Jerky is on the Andretti Autosport car this weekend. That's just nothing but good news for the teams and the series as a whole.
Well, it's so important to have sponsors for everything that we do just to continue to make IndyCar successful. And with Beach coming on, that's awesome to sponsor our qualifying show. And as he said, he's from Carmel, Indiana, and he's venturing out to follow where the IndyCar Series goes, loves it out here in the desert. And, the more sponsors, the better. And Hey, Mark, we've been putting on tremendous races. The competition is second to none. And these cars, I mean, these athletes driving these cars are just unbelievable. And Charlie Kimball's our first one up, Mark, and he's on track now.
So let's go to Outback Steakhouse and look for Beach Whiskey. Ask for it by name, if you will. Charlie Kimball hugs that outside retaining wall. We should see the green flag this time by Charlie Kimball. 8th quick with a lap of 189.222. IndyCar Nation winner, waving the green flag for qualifying, and Charlie Kimball heads down the back straightaway toward Jay Query.
Charlie Kimball ducks in now to the middle of the racetrack, then takes a high line entering turn number 3. Gets those wheels now down along the bottom of the line and sweeps it outside towards turn number 4 as he moves out.
Lap number 1 in the book, 190.603, so a little faster, Jake, than Charlie was in practice.
Charlie now takes it off of turn number 2. He now brings it up just a little bit higher as he exits turn number 3. Back down to the bottom of the racetrack and now really towards the middle coming off turn 4.
Checkered flag is out for Charlie Kimball. Lap number 2, 190.526. A pretty consistent run there, Davey. 2-lap average for Charlie, 190.565.
Yeah, good run for him. And as we talked about, this is as fast as they're going to run all weekend right here in qualifying, and so he picked up speed from practice, but ironically, everybody else should do the same.
These cars really look cool under the lights.
This place under the lights is fantastic, and, you know, from up here, to be honest, the first time I've been up here in the start-finish line watching these guys, and just the corner speeds that these cars are going through here is just amazing.
Will Power is set to roll off next. Then Rahal, then Carpenter, and then Pagano, then Sato, Aloshin, Marco, Elio, Hunter Ray and Hinch, then Chilton, Dixon, Newgarden, Rossi, Hildebrand, Munoz, Daly, Ed Jones, Bourdais, and Kanaan. It won't take long to get through 21 cars. Nick Yeoman, you heard from him a few moments ago. He'll be talking to drivers. And Zach Veach did a nice job filling in for J.R. Hildebrand at Barber Motorsports Park last week. He is back with us this weekend, and Zach is going to be handling duties on pit road after joining me in the booth. Will Power getting up to the paces now. Races off of turn number 4. Power was 5th quick after the practice session a couple of hours ago. His fastest lap was 190.560 miles per hour. Green flag is out. Will Power halfway point of the back straightaway.
Power takes it down now, immediately gets it back to the outside line between 2 and 3. Coming into turn number 4, Davey, he's got a little bit of wind that Kimball didn't have, and that might not affect those USAC cars you were in, but these Indy cars feel it.
Well, he felt it, but he felt it at 193.451 miles an hour, so great first lap by Will Power.
He's in turn number 3, Jake.
Power that time between 1 and 2 started to get it towards the middle of the racetrack. Now keeps a more conservative middle line as he exits turn 4.
Lap number 2 in the book, quicker still, 194.586 miles per hour. The 2-lap average for Will Power, 194.017. That's a pretty good number, Davey.
That's a really good number, faster than we so far this weekend by a couple miles an hour. So good run by that Penske car and the Chevrolet.
Yep. Next up, we will see the 15 machine of Graham Rahal with United Rental sponsorship on the side of that car. Ed Carpenter, replacement of the fuel tank, and some other issues with that car. The practice session will roll off next. And then Simon Pagano, as we mentioned, we heard from Simon, top 5 qualifiers. I think Graham Rahal probably right now, Davey, just feels like they need a little luck and a good run here tonight.
Yeah, you know, they struggled the last race at Barber, which, by the way, he finished runner-up the last 2 years there, and then finds himself qualifying last, really, at Barber, and struggled throughout the day, gained some positions, but not where he wants to be. Now, obviously, he's come to the desert, the first oval of the year. He'd like to see a little success and get the team back on pace.
Power, Kimball, 2 qualifiers already in the book. Power with the fast lap so far, the average that is, 194.017. Green flag is out for Graham Rahal down the back straightaway. We'll keep an eye on that run and send it downstairs to Zach Veach.
Hey guys, I'm with Charlie Kimball here. You're the first one on track after the dust storm we kind of had ending practice. Take us through your run and what you kind of felt out there.
Yeah, the conditions were definitely different than we had this afternoon. The wind is shifted a little bit. Obviously, the sun's gone down. The ambient temperature has dropped a lot, I think more than we expected. You know, there was quite a bit of grip in the car, and I think we could have trimmed the Honda out a little bit more, but overall, I'm proud of the Novo Nordisk guys. You know, everyone at Chip Ganassi Racing has worked really hard from the open test to now, and I think we've taken a step forward. We'll just have to see where we end up at the end of the night, and I know we've got a good race car for tomorrow.
Best of luck tomorrow, Charlie. Thanks.
Thank you.
2 laps of the book for Graham Rahal, Davey, 189.786. He was very outspoken at Barber Motorsports Park. He's kind of anxious to get to Indianapolis, where he has at least a teammate in Oriole Serbia to bounce some things off of.
No,
he's kind of all by himself now.
It's a one-man band right now, and that is frustrating because you got guys like Penske and Ganassi with 4 cars that they're getting all the information off of, and Graham has to do it all on his own, and it's really kind of showing. It's kind of coming up right now, and he's not going to be happy with the run at 189, I'll tell you.
Yeah, everybody else does have a teammate to bounce somebody off of, and that's what makes things particularly difficult. Ed Carpenter, Davey, always good to see Ed back in a race car.
Yeah,
I know how he loves these ovals.
This is his deal. The ovals are his game. He loves Phoenix International Raceway, and struggled a little bit earlier in practice, but I expect to see him gain some speed. His teammate was up there towards the top with J.R. Hildebrand, and we'll see where Ed lands after qualifying.
The green flag is out. We'll keep an eye on his run. Head downstairs to Nick Yeoman.
Will Power is the provisional pole sitter. Just 3 cars. The magical question, of course, is that going to be fast enough, do you think, to hold for the pole?
I don't know. There's a lot of good guys to come. Pretty much all my teammates, so they've all got about the same as I've got. I lifted a little, so they'll get some good information from me and maybe be flat, so it'll be tough.
Advantage or disadvantage going early?
Disadvantage for sure, because they can actually adjust on the go if they see what you've done. Yeah.
All right, Will Power, he's going to be a good teammate to give up some information, but certainly he's drawn the line in the sand early on here, Mark.
2 laps in for Ed Carpenter, Davey. He won't be happy. The 2-lap average, 186.360 miles per hour.
Well, I think the issues they had in practice, just lack of some track time and just not getting that thing right and comfortable for him. So you're right. He's not going to be happy with that 186. But, confidence is this track, even though starting position is very, very key because it's so hard to pass here, but there's pit stops, there's strategy, and Ed, when it comes to race time, he usually has a good race car.
Interesting to note the words of Will Power, and I think he echoes the sentiment of most guys in qualifying. They don't want that first, second, third, or fourth qualifying position. Wouldn't they rather go somewhere around the end of the line?
Without a doubt. More
especially
rubber
if you have a teammate.
Yes, rubber getting on the racetrack every time somebody goes around. It's getting a little bit cooler. You can see Ed getting out of the car. He's definitely not happy whatsoever. A little more, it's cooler, which helps. And then, like you said, you get a little bit of information off of the teammates. And Simon Pagenaud's next to go. They're holding him just for a few seconds here. But now I don't know if they had enough time to get to Simon and tell him exactly what Will's car was doing to make any changes. I mean, I'm sure he said, hey, I had to lift a little bit here, but and Simon may make a few cockpit adjustments, but we'll see if he could beat his teammate.
Yeah, that's the thing because, as much as teammates, and we've seen it over the years, they share and they trade information, and that's very, very common. There's only so much they can share and can trade given the circumstances.
Yeah, and everybody's cars are just a little bit different. It's not like you can go change a spring or anything. There's some cockpit adjusters or weight jackers they have in there. They can change the anti-roll bars to soften or stiffen the front and rear of the race car. Things that they could do, but not great big changes. And I'm watching the wind right now as well, Mark, and it's pretty much stayed the same as when qualifying started, but it's definitely gusty, and so just a few miles an hour difference in wind makes a big difference as well.
You talk about cars that look cool under the lights. This one sure does. That Menards machine of Simon Pagenaud takes the green flag. He exits turn number 2, and Jake Query, you can see him from very far away.
Quickly into turn number 2, he gets to the top of the racetrack, then kind of slides down and back up, but between 3 and 4 keeps it very low. As a matter of fact, Pagenaud more to the middle of the track out of 4 than anyone else.
First lap's a good one, 193.396, just like that, to the midway point of the back straightaway.
The defending series champion is Simon Pagenaud, works his way now into turn number 3, keeps the car down on the bottom of the racetrack. Simon Pagenaud now out of turn number 4.
Lap number 2 in the books. The second lap, 193.414. Provisionally, the outside of row 1, 2-lap average, 193.414 to pit road in Sac Beach.
Graham, you guys worked through practice and qualifying here. Take us through your run. Is this one of those places you're finding it hard being a single-car effort with just 2 hours before qualifying, or?
Well, I think for everybody it was tough today. Obviously, the wind played a lot of games with this. I think the wind's going to continue to die down here in qualifying. So, to be a later draw is going to definitely help here today. But, same for everybody. Yeah, single car, it's tough, but we're we're going to try to learn to overcome that as much as we can again and get this United Reynolds car up front. I mean, after what we had been struggling with all day, which was really rear end related, to go into qualify and have a lot of understeer was a shocker, but just didn't anticipate it enough and get the tools adjusted enough. But we'll be all right. We'll hopefully be better tomorrow.
Thanks. Best of luck tomorrow.
192.631 for Elio Castro Neves, the qualifying record set a year ago. Davey, needless to say, that's in danger.
Yeah, that's definitely in danger for sure. So now remember, Takumo here last year, he didn't have very good luck qualifying, different team. But if I recall, he crashed at qualifying, if I recall. And so hopefully he has a better run this year than he did last.
Let's check in on that run. Green flag is out for Sato as he sets up for turn 3, Jake.
Sato doesn't waste time getting high coming out of turn number 2, then stays towards the middle of the racetrack. Now, coming out of turn number 4 already is Takuma Sato.
First lap, 189.708 provisionally. The inside of row number 3, Sato out of turn number 2.
Sato still working his way with that Andretti Autosport team. Keeps it now all the way to the outside, entering turn number 3, bottom of the racetrack. Keeps it midline between 3 and 4.
Checkered flag is out for Takuma Sato. Second lap, pretty consistent. Probably won't be happy with it, though. First lap, 189.708. Lap number 2, 189.849. The 2-lap average, provisionally, inside of row number 3, 189.779 miles per hour. And, Davey, it's kind of, I guess, odd to see such a disparity. I mean, you see Ed at 186, Sato at 189, Ray Hall at 189, and then you go to the top of timing and scoring, you got guys in 193, 194 range. That's a big gap.
It's a big gap, and things happen so fast this racetrack, and it's a big gap. But like I said, one teeny lift here, one little mis-entry of the corner, and you have to get out of that throttle. You're going to lose 2-3 mile an hour that lap instantly. So you have to be on your game, and the car has to be perfect for your qualifying.
Mikel Aloshin going through the warm-up paces now in his number 7 car out of the Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports stable. 10th quick after the practice session. We heard from him earlier, 188.720 miles per hour. Green flag is out for Mikel Aloshin. He glides it through turn number 1 and exits the dogleg in turn 2.
It's a metallic cherry red machine for Mikel Aloshin, and the lights really dance off the top of it. This is a guy that had his car towards the top of the speed charts in practice. Marquis out of turn number 4.
That's a good-looking race car. Lap number 1 is in the book. It's a good one, 192.005. Can he back it up, Jake, off of turn number 2?
The Russian is doing exactly that on this, his lap in qualifying. Takes his way into turn number 2, keeps it down, gets below the yellow line, as a matter of fact, as he now exits turn number 4.
Really wide exit, lap number 2, 192.649, so a bit quicker. Inside of row number 2 for now, the 2-lap average, 192.327 to Zach Veach.
Simon, P2 so far on that run. Did power give you much help before your run? I know it was pretty close to you guys, but take us through it.
Yeah, Will definitely gave me some great tips. That's what he does really well as a teammate. But our car was phenomenal. It was a perfect balance. It's just a really tricky game, how much downforce you're going to take out, especially with the night running. The air is stronger, so you have more downforce. We didn't have that this afternoon in practice. I feel like we did a great job. I was very happy with the balance of the car in general, so I think it's going to stay up there, but unfortunately not enough to get Will.
Well, thanks, Simon. Best of luck. Down to Nick.
Let's get a quick word with Takuma Sato, who was 6th fastest. Walk us through that run. How was it?
That was actually okay. A lot better than we expected. Obviously, the practice was really gusty wind, so it was ever so difficult, to practice. But it seems to be temperature helped and wind calmed down, and so it was okay. Reasonable run. I mean, it's not really doesn't look fast, but I think it was a reasonable run.
All right, his teammate on the racetrack, Marco Andretti.
Green flag is out for Marco Andretti, 19th quick after the session, 184.138 miles per hour, 185.6 to warm up. Marco Andretti on his run into turn number 3.
Marco Andretti had some electrical problems, fractured his practice session, and then the yellow came out before he could find if he had any speed left. Mark, does he?
Yeah, he picked it up nicely, 190.936 miles per hour. Jake, pretty good run for Marco off of turn 2.
Marco Andretti takes it low into turn number 2, but immediately gets back up to the upper line of the racetrack. Now entering turn number 3, goes down low, keeps it low now as he exits turn number 4.
Again, 190.936. A little quicker, Davey. Lap number 2, 191.840. Pretty good 2-lap average for Marco, 191.387.
You know, one thing, the first guy I've seen is Marco that kind of made a small circle. A lot of times we see that on the 1.5 miles where they really run low down the back straightaway just so they're not going the full distance of the racetrack. Well, Marco did that. He really kept it low on the straightaways and coming off and entering the corners in the middle of the racetrack, which makes the circle smaller, but sometimes binds the car up. But obviously a great run at a 191.387.
Again, between the 2-seater and the Silver Crown, let's go back to, say, the mid to late 1990s. What do you notice the most in terms of how this track has changed from then to now?
Yeah, really, the front straightaway is the only thing that is the same. When you enter turn 1, there's more banking, and then they moved to turn 2, the exit of turn 2, way out farther, so you can carry so much more speed through turn 2, and then the dog leg, they moved it back towards turn 2 and banked the entire back straightaway. So it's like one big continuous corner from turn 1 all the way through the dog leg. It's like one huge continuous corner. And then you get a big run going down into turn 3 with that banking on the back straightaway. Turn 3, they didn't change the banking, and they actually made it a little skinnier over there. So just a different look over there, per se. And still has the Phoenix feel, but just things are moved around, a little more banking, a little more speed, a little more easy to drive, to be honest with you.
I know it's just an optical illusion, but I swear when we were here, after they took that pedestrian bridge out in turn number 4, they put the tunnel in, because that used to be the only way you could get in and out of here, except for where the wall stuck out in turn number 2. But there were some drivers said the turn felt different because that bridge was
gone. Absolutely, and now we're used to it. With that, I've raced so many times with that bridge, and it was really kind of a reference point. And that's one thing that I've noticed too, Mark. When you enter turn 1, the inside pit wall is moved almost all the way out to the racing groove, where before it was a good 10 feet below. So your reference points and where you're supposed to lift and turn in are really different on this racetrack, and it's still something I'm trying to get a hold of in the Silver Crown car. But like I say, still a great racetrack, super fast, and just enjoyable coming out to this place.
Green flag is out for the previous qualifying record holder, Jake Elio Castroneves.
Funny, some cars just look fast, and Elio Castroneves' looks exactly that. He works his way close to 190 on the warm-up. He's out of turn 4 already on lap 1.
Lap number 1, 194.835 miles per hour for Elio Castroneves.
Castroneves on his giddy-up, already out of turn number 2, now takes it down all the way to the bottom of the track, keeps it there between 3 and 4. He's about to complete the run.
Tighter exit than his teammate Simon Pagenaud off of turn number 4, more to the middle of the racetrack. He backed it up nicely, though, Davey. Faster still, 194.975. 2-lap average, provisional pole, 194.905. That's an impressive number.
Well, one thing that we see here is the second lap for everybody's been quicker, and that's for a couple reasons. You get a little bit, the heat gets in your tires, so they have the maximum grip, but it's also a little bit of a confidence thing. You know, it's hard your first lap to go in there and talk yourself into being wide open and really know that it's going to stick. But that second lap, that gives you the confidence or not, basically, if you could go through here wide open. But that was a great run by Elio. I'm just blown away. We're almost 195 miles an hour on a 1 mile oval. A lot of times we see those kind of numbers on super speedways, so it's just it's amazing how fast these guys go.
Pit road, Nick Yeoman.
And Mark, I'll tell you what, I made my way down to the timing and scoring line, and Will Power and Simon Pagenaud were both watching that teammate. I wish I could share on the radio their expressions. They were awful impressed and a little disappointed with just how fast their teammate Elio Castroneves.
Green flag out. Ryan Hunter-Reay, 11th quick after the practice session tonight, 187.469. The DHL machine points down the back straightaway, Jake.
Guy that's probably just hoping his luck turns around so far. Ryan Hunter-Reay works his way into turn number 4, keeps it about a car length off that yellow line.
Lap number 1 in the book for Ryan Hunter-Reay, 190.941 provisionally on the outside of row number 3. Just like that, he exits turn 2.
When you watch the cars going between turn 1 and 2 on the straight, sometimes it almost looks like it's a magnet, just kind of pulling them away and then back to the middle line. But Hunter Ray keeps his car right in the middle of the track out of turn number 4.
Second lap in the book, consistent run, 199.41, a 196.57, the 2-lap average, 190.799, good enough for now for the outside of row number 3. So Elio Castroneves has the number at 194.905. Some of the suspects right around the corner. Scott Dixon was 6th quick at 190.051, a little bit farther down the line. J.R. Hildebrand, 2nd quick at 191.681. But, Davey, just a couple of qualifiers from now, his teammate Joseph Newgarden was P1 at 192 and change.
Yeah, and so we'll see if he can pick it up, which everybody else has, so no reason to believe that he is not going to pick it up as well. So the biggest contender to get the pole, I think, out of everybody on the list will be the Penske teammate of Joseph Newgarden.
Long Beach winner James Hinchcliffe, the number 5 machine, works its way off of turn number 4. He's looking for the green flag. It is out, and his run is underway. And that gold paint scheme on the top of the engine cowling of that car, Jake dances, the lights dance off of it almost unlike any other car.
Read my mind, because I was thinking to myself, it's great when sponsors just become something so familiar, and that gold arrow machine is something we're very familiar with. He's off at turn number 4.
His first lap, 191.092. We'll recap his run after we go downstairs and hear from Elio Castroneves.
Provisional pole sitter right now, Elio Castroneves, 194.905. I went down to the timing line. You got to have to pick your teammate's jaw off the floor. Simon Pagenaud was blown away with how fast that run is. How did it feel in that race car?
Well, the Rev Group car was really good, and again, we're really pushing to the limit here. So unfortunately, there's more very fast guys to go, and we just got to hold our breath a little bit, like we just did out there. But great effort, my engineer John Dugib and Roger, obviously, is always in my right there. If you think it's good, make it happen. So far, so good.
Great run for Elio Castroneves. He'll play the waiting game now, Mark Janes, to see if he can hold on and score the pole once again here at Phoenix.
191.296 after a 191.092 for James Hinchcliffe. He goes provisionally to the outside of row number 3 with a 2-lap average of 191.194. That bumps Ryan Hunter-Ray down to row number 4. And Davey, next up, Max Chilton didn't have a very good practice session. 16th quick at 185.482, but you get the feeling that Max is starting to get a bit more comfortable, been back to a racetrack now a couple of times, and I think we're going to see some better results in the not-too-distant future for the driver of the 8 car.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the ovals yet. Still, jury's out. We're going to find out real soon, but on the street and road courses, absolutely. Confidence is building right now. These ovals are very difficult and hard to catch hold of, but he will get it done for sure. One thing I want to mention is there was an onboard camera with Castroneves and Hinchcliffe that I just watched their hand movement, and I was really surprised on how little hand movement Elio Castroneves had down through turns 3 and 4. And then when Hinchcliffe was in there, he had twice as much steering input in his car as Elio going through 3 and 4, meaning that there was more understeer there. So that's probably the reason right there that the speed difference that he had.
Green flag is out for Max Chilton. We'll get his first lap, 190.062. We'll recap the run after we head down to Zach Veach.
Marco, you guys have been fighting those electrical gremlins through practice today, but you're holding P5 right now. Take us through your qualifying run here at Phoenix.
Definitely just went for it. You know, we definitely went all the way back to a setup. That's really trust in our work, and we do good work in testing, and we went back to a setup from 2 months ago here, and it rebounded. So that's a good confidence builder going forward. Same thing with the race car tomorrow. We got a guess, but I think it was one of those where I just sort of went for it. I asked where my teammate's downforce was, and I said, go one less than that. So we definitely went for it.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to go for it, man. Well, good job. Best of luck tomorrow. Mark?
191.479, the second lap for Chilton. 2-lap average, 190.768 miles per hour. The run of Joseph Newgarden when we come back to Phoenix International Raceway.
The finish line, the victory lap, the trophy. I'm Mario Andretti, and I know there's nothing sweeter than winning an IndyCar race. And that feeling doesn't stop at the finish line. Because when you drive on Firestone tires, the official tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series, you'll realize that you don't need a track to drive like a champion.
Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
From Phoenix International Raceway, this is the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
Completed 6 rows now, getting ready to set the field for tomorrow's race here at Phoenix International Raceway, Desert Diamond, Phoenix Grand Prix, and Davey getting ready to watch the run of Joseph Newgarden. And when some bad luck in the way of a punctured tire bit Will Power, Joseph Newgarden was right there.
Yeah, absolutely, and we know Will would have won that race, right? I mean, there's only 7 laps left. He was leading the race with 7 pounds of air in the rear tire, which is unheard of, and how it stayed on the wheel is amazing and still able to keep the lead. So just unfortunate for Will for sure, but how about Newgarden there to take advantage of it and have himself place in second to stay ahead of Scott Dixon. You got to be good to stay ahead of Scott Dixon. His 3rd time in that Penske car and already has a win.
Scott Dixon going through the warm-up paces. Let's head downstairs quickly to Zach Veach.
Talking with our Long Beach winner, man, we got to see the onboard shot of you running around here. Seemed pretty smooth. P6 right now. Take us through your run, man.
Yeah, I mean, pretty solid. Just based on practice the way it was with the weather conditions and everything like that. We weren't quite sure what to expect. Taking a little bit of a stab at it, but big credit to the Schmidt Peterson Motorsport guys. What we've been strong at all year is rolling off the truck with a good car. Sorry, I can't get my words right today. So for us, we had a little bit too much understeer on that run. We were flat both laps, pretty secure. I tried adjusting the car a little bit, but 22nd laps around here, you don't have a whole lot of time to make a difference in cockpit control. So we'll see where that stacks us up. If we're inside the top 10, that puts us in a decent place to go racing tomorrow. I'm right near Hunter Ray, and he was pretty freaking spectacular on starts and restarts last year, so maybe we can learn something from him.
All right, buddy. Good luck tomorrow. Thanks. Let's go to Nick.
All right, Scott Dixon, lap 1 in the books, 191.9 miles per hour. Let's catch up with Ryan Hunter-Ray, provisionally 8th of 13 cars. I know that, Ryan, isn't ideal, but last year you were able to make a 2nd and 3rd group work. How tough is it going to be, though, here at Phoenix to work your way up from impact?
It's going to be tough to pass, no doubt about it. Earlier today, it was tough to really get a read on the car and what we can actually take to tomorrow. How much of it's really going to be relevant from what we learned today. So last year certainly had a good car out of me. This year, it's been a little more hit and miss at this racetrack. So hopefully we can put it together, get the right setup on the car, and move forward.
All right, appreciate it. That's Ryan Hunter-Ray. Mark, our defending winner of this race, has completed his qualifying run.
Yep, Scott Dixon, as you said, Nick, first lap, 191.920. Second lap, quicker, 192.180. For now, Scott Dixon on the inside of row number 3 at 192.050 miles per hour. I'm sure we would like to have a little more out of the race car than that, Davey, but that's still a pretty good starting position.
Still good spot, and Scott, Scott could win from anywhere, and he's the 2nd fastest Honda right now. How about Michael Elation being the fastest Honda at this point in that 4th spot? But Scott had a great run, and he'll be happy with it, I think.
I would imagine there are a lot of folks on pit road interested to see what this number is like. P1 after the practice session, Joseph Newgarden, the winner at Barber Motorsports Park last weekend. His fastest lap at practice today, 192.108. Green flag is out for Joseph Newgarden off of turn number 2.
Elio Castroneves hit just over 200 miles an hour in the traps going into turn number 3. Newgarden trying to find the same speed, keeps that car at the bottom of the racetrack. He's out of turn number 4.
Off a 189-mile-an-hour warm-up lap. Lap number 1, 193.382 for Joseph Newgarden.
Going to have to get on his giddy up just a little bit if he wants to unseat his teammate. Newgarden a little bit higher into turn number 3. Bottom of the racetrack now, hugs that line. Middle of the racetrack out of turn number 4.
Lap number 2 is in the book. Checkered is out and a little faster, 193.972. Swaps places with his teammate Simon Pagenaud provisionally the inside of row number 2. The 2-lap average, 193.676. Another Penske party at the top of timing and scoring right now, Davey.
Not only a Penske party, but a Chevrolet party. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Chevrolet, Roger Penske-owned cars. The only other Chevrolet in the field right now is all the way down to 14th. That's Ed Carpenter.
We see Alexander Rossi leaving pit road. Rossi in that 98, a lap of 185.612 was his best. And right now, Davey, the guy that put down a pretty good lap that I think might have a shot would be J.R. Hildebrand. He was second quick at 191.681.
You don't count out that Hildebrand at all. I mean, he's back after a long absence from the Verizon IndyCar Series. It's good to see Ed Carpenter hire JR to give him another opportunity. Unfortunately, missed a race last week because of a wrist injury that he had in Long Beach, but he's always been great on the ovals. As we can remember, he came so close to winning the biggest one of all, and that's the Indianapolis 500. So he's excited to have another run at the full time, especially get back on these ovals.
Green flag is out for the defending Indy 500 champion, Alexander Rossi, off of turn number 2, Jake.
Rossi, as a matter of fact, kind of gave us a preview of what was going to come in Indy last year. He ran very well at Phoenix. He's about to complete his first lap.
Off of turn number 4, Alexander Rossi, a warm-up lap of 183 plus 189.923. We'll recap his run after we head down to Zach Beach.
Guys, I have Scott Dixon, our defending race champion here. Obviously, this has been a place that's treated you well. We see that starting as of right now, P6. We'll see how the rest of qualifying goes, but take us through your run, man.
Yeah, it was one of those runs, man, where we were too conservative. It was a nice, easy, flat-out run, and I think it was hard to pick just because of the conditions that we had earlier today. Obviously, with lots of bit of a sandstorm going on there, or dust, or whatever it was, and then with the heat. So the track definitely picked up a lot of grip, and we maybe should have trimmed more accordingly.
Well, hopefully, it's more like this tomorrow for the race. Thanks, Scott. Good luck.
Yep, right now Scott Dixon provisionally on the outside of row number 3. His 2-lap average again, 192.050. Davey, Alexander Rossi not going to be happy with that 2-lap average. Right now, the outside of row number 6 at 190.405.
Yeah, you want to see yourself in them 191s, not 192s, I think, just to feel good about it. And so that 190 is not going to make him happy, and he's going to be towards the back of this field when the race comes around tomorrow.
So the 21 of J.R. Hildebrand, as we mentioned, he was second quick after the practice session at 191.378 miles per hour. Not sure what the extent of the pain is. Still lingering from that injury suffered at Long Beach, but you can bet he's still feeling it. Pretty good warm-up lap, Jake, 187.053.
Starts to come now off of turn number 2. Slid it up just a little bit, as a matter of fact, now moving in to turn number 3, seeing if he can offset the frustration of his teammate J.R. Hildebrand out of 4.
1 lap in the books, 193.890, provisionally good enough for the inside of row number 2. A good run for J.R. Hildebrand.
Yeah, Mark, I would say that probably does exactly what it is that I was saying, and that is try to sweeten the deal just a little bit for that Fuzzy's Ultra Premium Vodka team. Works his way out of turn number 4. It is J.R. Hildebrand.
Did he back it up? Yes, he did. 193.934 miles per hour. The 2-lap average for J.R. Hildebrand for now, good enough for the inside of row number 2 at 193.912. Going to be all smiles in that pit box for now, Davey.
Yeah, without a doubt. Picking, kind of splitting up the Penske dominance in qualifying, and puts himself right in between them. Castroneves, Power, then Hildebrand, Newgarden, and Pagenaud find themselves right now in the top 5.
So Carlos Munoz, Connor Daly, Ed Jones, Sebastian Bourdais, and Tony Kanaan yet to qualify here at Phoenix International Raceway.
You can't take a 700 horsepower Indy car out on the road, but you can take the tires. The new Firehawk high-performance tires from Firestone are built with racing-inspired technology and have better wet and dry handling than ever before. Now the only thing missing is a pit crew.
Hi, Dad.
Well, that's a start. Find your perfect Firehawk performance tire at your local Firestone retailer. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
From Phoenix International Raceway, this is the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
Again, the opportunity to take a shot at Helio Castroneves dwindles. Not a lot of bullets left in the gun, if you will. Carlos Munoz was 14th quick after the practice session. That's who we're awaiting to take to the course now. Connor Daly was 18th quick. Ed Jones was 20th quick at 182.742. Sebastian Bourdais was 7th quick, and Tony Kanaan was inside the top 10. He was 9th quick at 188.916. Davey, your opinion, again, we've seen format changes in the structure of practice and qualifying for road and street course racing, and now, a 2-hour practice session that you go qualifying about 2 hours later is pretty tight, huh?
It is tight, and it's definitely different. I mean, there's only a few divisions here this weekend. I'm in one in the Silver Crown and the IndyCar, and there's a vintage class. But, man, we don't have very much time. These guys don't even have a final warm-up tomorrow, Mark. They're going to do practice pit stops, and we in the Silver Crown, we're going to have 70 gallons of fuel, and after we qualified with 20, so 50 gallons more with no additional practice. So we're jamming it in here, but that's what makes it fun. It's safe for everybody, and just go get after it.
Back to pit road, Nick Yeoman.
193.676 miles per hour for Joseph Newgarden, who provisionally is fourth. Joseph, good lap. I know it's always bummed to get beat by a couple teammates, but how was that car in qualifying?
Oh, the car was good. It just wasn't what we needed, I guess, from a speed standpoint. So, we missed a little bit. Not sure, exactly where we were going to get it. I thought we had done enough to give ourselves the opportunity, and I was doing what I could in the cockpit there for the run. But we missed it just a bit. I think we're all still pretty happy. Obviously, whenever you got a teammate on pole, provisionally right now, hopefully he's able to hold on, or however it's going to work out. But it's always good for the whole team when we're all up there. So I think we feel strong about the strength of our cars this weekend. We wanted more. We wanted to be the top guys. So hopefully we can make that happen tomorrow when it counts.
All right, that's Joseph Newgarden. Mark, it's always good to want a little bit more when you qualify fourth.
Well, Davey, Carlos Munoz is going to want a lot more. 2-lap average for him, 188.740, lap number 1. Lap number 2, 189.865. The 2-lap average for the driver of the 14 ABC supply machine, 189.301.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy with that. Looks like the car maybe had some big understeer. I couldn't really tell off of turn 2, but seems he got pretty high up there. We'll see how his teammate Connor Daly does. And by the way, when they go out one right after another, there's no chance to really pass on any information. So we'll see how Connor ends up in.
And while he goes through the warm-up paces, let's get an observation from Jake Query out in turn 4.
It's funny, guys. The last couple of cars that have come by, when they start to get towards pit road, I thought a couple's engines had let go. Huge cloud of smoke coming out from behind the cars. Then I realized that's all that dust from that dust storm that we had earlier today. They pushed it down due to the sweepers down to the bottom of the racetrack. Doesn't affect you in the race line as the sparks fly up here out of turn number 4. But when you get down at the bottom, it looks just like that oil drive we see after an incident on track.
Dust blowing around a little bit out there. The warm-up lap for Connor Daly, 178.096 miles per hour. The pilot of the number 4 machine aims it out at turn number 4. First lap is in the book for Connor, 188.315 miles per hour. Jake, let's follow him down the back straightaway.
Interesting to see sparks come from the bottom, because typically that means you've got a full fuel load. That car's weighed down a little bit. Daly got him out of turn number 4. This time keeps the car in the middle of the racetrack, takes it really high out of turn number 4.
Boy, I tell you what, he was holding on through 3 and 4, Davey, huh? The second lap of the book, 188.758, the 2-lap average inside of row number 9 for Connor Daly, 188.536. That was what they call a white knuckler.
Oh, boy. I mean, just unfortunate, because the speed's not there, obviously. He's all right now on the inside of row 9 and absolutely had a handful. And you can see him coming off, so close from hitting the wall coming off of turn 4. So when you're having to work that hard and risk it that much with the speed that he has, just very, very disappointing.
I know that Elio obviously ran faster than the cars that are left at Jonesboro Day, but he sees the guy that they had the celebration for last night, along with him, the celebration of legends. His lifelong friend Tony Kanaan is yet to go, and Elio's not going to rest until TK gets the checkers.
No, I feel pretty confident in that run that Elio. I don't think anybody has anything. The guys left don't have anything for him. But when you're in Elio's shoes, you never count it over till it's over. And I think that Chevy power right now in the top 5 is pretty impressive. It's really weird when you look at this chart, Mark. It's the top 5, and the last 3 are Chevrolets. Everything in between is Hondas, so it's pretty weird looking at our chart.
You're only talking about 90 seconds to 3 minutes left of total time by the time we get through these 3 cars, but it's going to seem like an eternity.
Yeah, exactly, right? And you know him. He holds his emotion not too far from his sleeve, right? So you can definitely see what he's thinking. You can see when stressed, happy. But right now, even though he feels confident, I'm sure, he still is nervous that somebody could knock him off.
1 lap in the book for Ed Jones, 189.824. He'll slip up to the outside of row number 7, midway point of the back straightaway, Jake.
a nice rookie campaign so far for Ed Jones. He keeps that car down towards the bottom of the racetrack between 3 and 4. The rookie stripes now go out of view as Ed Jones leaves turn 4.
Second lap quicker, 190.234. 2-lap average outside row number 7, 190.029. Zach Veach, you've handed the keys back to J.R. Hildebrand after driving that car last weekend. He's done well in this qualifying session.
I did. So, Coach, it looks like you're doing pretty well here. P3 right now with only a few cars left to go. Take us through your run. Obviously, very happy to see you back behind your car. Seems to be super strong right now as well, so take us through that.
Yeah, I mean, the car's been good, from the test to rolling out here in practice and, had a good, strong run there. I mean, I think it's so difficult to pick your downforce level here in these kind of varied conditions. We saw Elio and those guys roll out with a little less than where we were at. But frankly, I think just looking towards the race, I think we're good enough to run there here in qualifying. I think our cars are really good in race trim. Unfortunately, Ed in the 20 car will be hauling it from the back, but he'll be somebody watching the race for sure as well.
We're all happy to see you back here, man. Great run. Thanks. Best of luck tomorrow.
Now, that guy interviewed him did a pretty nice job last week at Barber Motorsports.
Oh, I'm very happy.
Huh?
Zach, by the way, great job. Yeah, I haven't really got to talk to him much. And your first IndyCar race, finishing on the lead lap, very respectable, had great speed. So for a first time at one of the most difficult road courses that we run on, by the way. So I'm excited that he had that opportunity and now has opportunity to go visit A.J. Foyt, my first IndyCar owner, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
First lap of the book for Sebastian Bourdais, Jake, 191.210 miles per hour.
This is your points leader, Sebastian Bourdais, as he works his way into turn number 3. He does so by ducking that car down to the bottom of the racetrack, keeps a very, very tight line. Now a little bit higher out of turn number 4.
Checkered flag is out. Second lap, pretty consistent, 191.488. 2-lap average for Bourdais. Inside row number 5, 191.349. And Davey, our network director, Wally Levitt, pointing out on timing and scoring, we literally have Chevrolet bookends in timing and scoring.
Yeah, the first 5 and the last 3, exactly. It's so amazing how that really lays out. And just and before, when we had kind of more Chevrolets than Hondas in the past, it's just swapped over this year, and there's definitely more Honda contingent than there are Chevrolet. But right now, the first 5 really showing the way, and that was a good run for Bourdais. He's starting right now at 10-11 behind Scott Dixon, the guy who's second at points, so he keep an eye on him all day to make sure he doesn't get too far away and gain any points on him.
Dixon, Chilton have had plenty of time to share whatever they can with Tony Kanaan. And Davey, as we mentioned, he was 9th quick after practice, so it's not out of the question that he could get himself in the first couple of rows.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, Tony's hungry. I love seeing him behind the wheel. He's another guy, great character and great enthusiasm and good for the sport. So hasn't had the finishes he wants this year yet, and he knows it, and he knows that his teammate has had them as Scott Dixon, and he's going to fight to get some wins this year for sure.
Boy, he is hugging that outside retaining wall most of the way around this racetrack. Gets to the bottom now. Fairly conservative exit off of turn number 4. He'll take the green flag off a warm-up lap of 185.530. Tony Kanaan off of turn 2.
Tony Kanaan quickly gets it to the bottom of the racetrack and then right back up high again as he enters turn number 3. That NTT data machine now already out of turn number 4.
Couple of feet off the outside retaining wall upon exit. The lap number 1 of the book, 192.411. Jake, good enough for the outside of row number 3 for now.
We'll see if he kind of keeps that same line as he did last time by, because it obviously was a good lap. He indeed does. A little bit lower between 3 and 4. Here comes Tony Kanaan to wrap up qualifying.
Checkered flag is out for Tony Kanaan. Lap number 2, pretty consistent off of 192.411. Second lap, 192.667. 2-lap average for Tony Kanaan, 192.539. The track record goes back to Elio Castro Neves, Nick Yeoman.
Lots of flash bulbs. Everybody wants a shot of our pole sitter. Give me that, come on! Woo! Let's celebrate! Elio, that's about as excited as I've seen you. Congratulations, man. Speed King once again.
I tell you, man, that was great. Great team effort. Rev Chevy was really, really fast, and it's a great team effort. Again, I always say because of my teammates, these guys are the toughest one, I tell you. Everybody's pushing each other, But I'm really glad that the number 3 prevailed this time, and I wanted that crown so bad. I said, I'm not going to give that crown, so it's great that's still here.
Last night at a celebration of you and Tony Kanaan celebrating your 20th year, you revealed the hair product, but if you wear that crown, it doesn't matter what's underneath, does it?
Even the wind today wasn't going to make my hair, go ballistic, but I tell you what, great teamwork, and I have to thank also Jonathan, my engineer. Wow, man, these guys put it like perfect, and we're working together. When you do like that, it's a great result. So it's a shame that Hildebrand ended up taking 1, 2, 3, 4, but good job Chevy again to pushing the limit, keep working, keep digging. That's what it's all about.
Nobody celebrates quite like Helio Castroneves.
Well put, Nick Yeoman. And Davey, going to be interesting to see with some of the changes that they've made from last year's package if things will bunch up a little bit. It's rare that you see a parade like we saw last year at Phoenix, and I think the drivers themselves would like to see things bunch up a little bit.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we're going so fast around here that I don't know that it's great for the race side of it. I mean, we put on fantastic races, and it's so impressive to watch how fast these cars go around here. But the key thing is, these guys want to race against each other, with each other, side by side, nose to tail, and put on a good show up for these fans and let the best man win. And right now, they're so fast, it really is difficult. You get the dirty air and the things that could affect you. But with the wind that we have and how fast these guys went, and Helio, class of the field right now to 194.905, pretty impressive. It's going to be a great day tomorrow.
You ready to go racing tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll get my 100 laps in tomorrow. So I have a good starting spot in that second row inside. And it's been a long time, Mark. It's been probably 18 years since I drove Silver Crown cars, and I haven't been behind the wheel since last year. So we'll see what happens, but having fun right now.
Like riding a bike, isn't it, though?
Well,
really?
so far, I'll let you know after the race tomorrow.
Good luck. We'll be pulling for you for sure. We'll see you up here in the broadcast booth. Starting lineup for tomorrow night's race. Row number 1, Helio Castroneves and Will Power. Row 2, J.R. Hildebrand and Joseph Newgarden. And row number 3, Simon Pagenaud and Tony Kanaan. Row 4, Mikael Alosian and Scott Dixon. Row 5, Marco Andretti and Sebastian Bourdais. Row number 6, James Hinchcliffe, Ryan Hunter-Ray. Row 7, Max Chilton and Charlie Kimball. Row 8, Alexander Rossi and Ed Jones. And row number 9, Graham Rahal and Takuma Sato. Row 10, Carlos Munoz and Connor Daly. Rolling off 21st in row number 11, Ed Carpenter. Join us for all of the action. The usual locations tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific. That's 9 p.m. Eastern as we get ready to go racing here at Phoenix International Raceway. Master Control Operations in our Indianapolis studios by Chris Pollock. On-site engineer and producer Rick Evans, the director of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network and IndyCar Radio is Wally Lovett. Jake Query was out on the course tonight. Zach Veach and Nick Yeoman, great job down on pit road. For Davey Hamilton, our driver analyst, I'm Mark Jane. So long for now from Phoenix International Raceway.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
Green flag is in the air. Pedro Hita gets shoved out.